What I'm on here for about is Queen Sheba.
Say that louder now, because we don't get to hear that often. Say it louder. Comical dialogue. It just depends on any given day. Thank you, Delicia Nicole, for letting me know that I am coming through loud and clear on this Monday evening. I had to give y'all a little bit of spice. I don't have to. You're not my daddy. I'd be like, girl, you didn't have to do all that. You did not have to do all that. And she did. Didn't she, Beverly? And she did. Listen, thank you all for pulling up on this Monday night. Listen, I got y'all all in y'all's feelings behind this Lexi Nicole thing. I mean, not Lexi Nicole. I'm sorry. I was just C. And I said, oh, child, they felt some kind of way about this. So the best thing to do is to just talk it out, right? Talk it out. There was so many good viewpoints that you all brought to the table. Y'all brought so many different perceptions and different variations of your thoughts. I was like, you know what? I got to go live. We're not going to be long, but I got to go live just long enough for us to talk it out, hash it out, iron it out. Some of y'all brought stepchild perspective. Some of y'all brought step parent perspective. Some of y'all gave some examples of how you've moved on and encouraged your kids, to have good relationships with their father. But at the end of the day, I think my question is, was Lexi justified in your opinion when it comes to airing her family out? Is she a savior? Is she your hero? Did it need to be said? Or is she, Lexi, you're kind of looking for trouble? Where do you stand on this? I know where I stand. And I feel like it was split down the middle, 50-50, right? Some of you were real mad and you said, I don't appreciate y'all blaming Miss Nell. Listen, I just do the commentary, honey, and I let y'all go at it in the chat. I ain't blaming nobody. I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I do, and that's what I'll continue to do. And y'all went at it in the chat. So my question to you, was Lexi justified in doing what she did and standing on her business when it comes to her interview that she did with the blogger, giving you the real tea? What do you think? Let me drop the link. I see all of my content creators. Y'all, thank you for popping up on Monday night. Thank you, everybody. My mods holding it down in the chat. Y'all make sure y'all show them some love. I appreciate it. I just dropped the link in the chat. Come talk with me. We're not going to be here long. What are your thoughts? As a parent, from a child's perspective, even an adult child, because Lexi is grown now. She's 32 years old. I'll give you my perspective real quick. I feel like, this is just my perspective, I feel like that's on you, Daddy. I think the responsibility goes to Chris as the child, as Lexi's father. You dropped the ball somewhere. But some of you said she needs to get over it. She's an adult. At this point, there cannot be that much hurt and pain. This girl's just looking to start trouble. She's just looking to air out this family. She needs to get over it. Some of you have said she can take her time. You can't tell somebody how to heal. What are your thoughts? Some of you have said, I bet Chris has done everything he possibly could to mend this relationship, and she seems to be the problem. While others of you have said, Nell is the problem. And then somebody else put a really good question in the chat, and I cannot remember your name, but I wanted to give you a shout out. You said, is it the problem that Chris wasn't there or Nell was present? And I was like, ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. When it comes to, let's talk about it. And I want to hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that 67%, it may have changed, but the last time I checked, 67% of Black households are single parent households. We can pause there. So only 40 something, I'm going to say 43. Is it 40? If it's 67, so it must be 43. Only 43% of the time, if that, right? If the parents are not married or if they remarried, let's just say 20 of the 43, we may see a step parent situation. So it's not often that we can see in our community people turning it around. Only a small percentage, getting married and establishing a new relationship out of a child that you made. So, with those statistics seated in front of you, how hard are we going to be on the step parent? Could it be a little bit of jealousy? Some of y'all say the mama's jealous. Lexi's only telling the story that her mama still hurt. And listen, y'all, this is not my opinion, none of this. I'm just sharing with you everything. I saw a little bit of everything. Do mamas be hating? Ladies, when the men move on, do y'all be hating? Do y'all pump y'all's kids full of poison and lead when it comes to their fathers? Or are you of the belief, shit, they gonna see it for themselves? They know they daddy trifling. Courtney, welcome to the stage. What are your thoughts? You're on
No,
mute.
not I'm the first person tonight.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So I just want to say, I know everybody is very passionate about this subject, and I don't know. I don't know. I think we all. She's telling her story from her perspective, from what this is how she feels, and this is her perspective. And Chris and Nell will have their story from their perspective, and it will be their truth. You know what I mean? And I think people forget. I don't know if a lot of people haven't experienced dysfunctional families. I have. Um, each person will have their own individual story, and from their perspective, it will be their truth. And you have to let people speak their truth. Now, when I heard the interview, for me, and in my opinion, Lexi did not give me a lot of her hurt. She gave me a lot of her anger, but she did not clarify a lot of her hurt. Chris Chris has admitted to abandoning Lexi as well as his other children. So I do think she has abandonment issues. Chris, I can't cover him for that. What I do want to hear is maybe when they give their rebuttal on the show, how have you tried to work it out? Like I don't know if I can hold him if he said they've been in therapy for 3 years and he thought they were in a good place. And you know what I mean? Like if he's made strides to try and right his wrongs, then I can commend him for that because we all have to think it's easy to get behind a keyboard and say, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. But when you're navigating through life, especially as a young person, as a young parent, you're trying to figure yourself out, just as Lexi is today. We're navigating through life, still trying to figure ourselves out, still trying to come into our own person. And sometimes it's hard, and especially if you're under a microscope. And I just want to say, Lexi put me, when I listened to the interview, it gave me Bag Lady, Erica Badu's Bag Lady. Lexi is carrying everything. And for her, I feel like Lexi has to put it down. She has to learn to let some of that stuff because you will be stuck in your anger, you will be stuck mad, and people will go on with their lives. You will be expecting a I'm sorry, a hug, a why, and people will simply go on with their lives and you will still be carrying those bags. And that's what she's doing. Like she she went in on Nail, you went in on your brothers and sisters, and the culprit here is Chris. Chris left his family. Chris is not, Chris is the one that Lexi needs to be focused on. Chris s- left one family, started another one. Chris has cheated on both of his wives. Chris has abandoned you. If Nell did something to you, then it was on Chris to correct Nell as your father. Like she's not keeping it's like a lot of misplaced anger. It was like to me it gave Nell is the one that came into money. She didn't break bread, so forget you too. But your hurt and anger comes from Chris because he's supposed to be your protector. So I just didn't the for me the interview didn't do a lot because it came from a place of anger. I didn't see where it was a lot of not holes necessarily, but she didn't do a good job of explaining everything. It was just kind of I'm about to rip y'all up. I'm about to, tell all the family business, which I personally, for me, I don't care. I don't care that there was a side chick 30 years ago. I mean, they've been married 30 years. You said the mom and daughter, y'all
Right.
exchanged children. Y'all okay at this point? If y'all okay, I'm okay. If it was just a lot like whatever Lance did at 16, I don't care. If your sister has no children and wants to date a man that takes care of her, oh well, more power to you. Go ahead. She didn't give me a lot. You trying to kind of bring your family down, that part, I'm a family person. I'd rather work it out than, to hear them go in on personal issues. Now, what I did want her to break down is this is where my father hurt me. This is how he hurt me.
Oh, that would have been good.
I don't feel like he's come in and tried to help me with my pain, or she didn't
That would
give
have
a
been
lot of that.
good. That
Right,
would
she
have been
didn't.
so
That's
beautiful.
the angle that she would have garnered a lot of empathy and sympathy, and people could have understood her anger. But because she came in guns a blazing, telling all the family, like, I don't care that Neil got money 10 years ago and they were broke before. Most
Well,
people
let
are
me
gonna
ask you
ball a
this
little
though.
bit.
Let me ask
Mhm.
you this, Courtney, and
Mhm.
then I want to go to Toya.
Mhm.
Taya. Show Styles and Spirit says, I think our community likes to keep family trauma as secrets. And I think some of us tell folks to get over it because that was told to them. I think Lexi is taking her anger with her dad out on Nell. Pause for there. All my panelists, I want you to be thinking about this in conjunction with what you're about to say. Could it be, let me ask you this, could it be subconsciously? I don't know. This is just a question that we feel like she needs to get on with it and get over with it because technically, let me just say this. There's this phenomenon of protect Black women. We've been conditioned not to complain, get over it, whereas we had a lot of sympathy for Lil Chris when he sat in his dad's office and said there's times that I drive around in the car late at night. You remember? Because they went from labeling him as being bad to troubled, and now they had a little bit more understanding. He drives around because he can't sleep. And then he shared with his dad, I feel like, I may want to unalive myself. I'm struggling. Could it be that people are harder on Lexi, in your opinion? Panelists, Courtney, and chat, because she's a girl, because she's a woman? Do you think that has anything to do with it?
For me, no.
Okay.
For me, I feel like Lexi, as a 32-year-old mother, she's a mother now. For her to get her healing and come out of that anger, like I said, people will move on with their lives. Chris was out partying. Chris and they were out partying with their daughter this weekend for her birthday. And Lexi, you're still in your anger. They will move on with their lives and you will be stuck in your anger. For herself, she has to put her mental health first and put some of that stuff down. Not because she's a girl or Chris, I'm not thinking about Chris, before herself to move forward and to let some of that for her to progress in life.
All
Because
right.
if you stay stuck in that anger, you're gonna be a mad soul and they still party.
Great points. Taya, did I say your name right? Taya, welcome. What are
You
your
did, you did. Hello.
hello?
And I don't think I think more people are more just I think upset with how Lexi did it. My opinion may not be that popular. I kind of blame Lexi's mom. And the reason why is because being in a similar type of situation in regards to my daughter being upset with her father, I still tried to protect my daughter's feelings to where there was a time where my daughter went to lash out publicly about her father. And instead of cheering her on or just letting her go, I just, privately said to her, hey, I understand how you're feeling. However, this is what you need to address with your father. And at that time, she hadn't addressed it with her father, but yet she's addressing, she's putting it out there publicly. And I feel like if Lexi's mother was doing a better job at caring, or I'm not going to say caring, but like helping her with her emotions. Maybe I'm using the wrong word, but I feel like there's a lack of help assisting her in her emotions.
Mm,
In regards to Nell, I think it's probably misdirected anger because me as a woman, I only can control what's going on in my household.
mhm.
And I don't know for certain, but I would think as a mother, Nell probably tried to nurture this young lady, but because of misdirected anger, you know, and just seeing one of the episodes and just seeing how this young lady is coming, there's certainly hurt there. But I wouldn't, and it's an assumption, but I would think that she's probably been disrespectful And I'm not saying how much campaigning I would do for a difficult child that doesn't even belong, directly belong to me in my household. She's difficult to deal. If she's difficult to deal with, I can't necessarily say I'm just going to continuously keep putting my hand on the burner for her to keep burning me. I love you. I'm here for you when you're ready to work through this. But if while you're not willing to work through this, I'm going to just let you know I'm here for you. But I'm not going to, break my neck falling down the steps. Meanwhile, I got all these other kids who is receiving and appreciative of my love. And yes, it is also Chris's. Chris holds some responsibility as well. However, I know he said it on TV. I don't know how much time he's invested in trying to help his daughter understand, hey, listen, I can take accountability. I was wrong. Tell me how I can fix it. How can we fix it together? How can we move forward? I don't know how much of that work has been put in. Now, if he hasn't put in any of that work, he's absolutely, then there shouldn't be no double interview. It should be him, Lexi, and Ayana fixing their life. And then you bring Nell in.
I agree. Welcome to the stage, Hannah Grace. What are your thoughts? Terrell, you're up next.
Thank you so much, Queen Sheba, for letting me come up. Hello, Palace and chat. Okay, so there was a comment. I think our community likes to keep family trauma as a secret. That could be true, but I don't think people are saying, Lexi, you need to keep this a secret. People, they wanted her to come out and tell her story. And I think someone already said it. It wasn't what she did, it was how she did it.
So if you were talking to Lexi, and let's just say she's tuned in, hypothetically, what would you say to her? What advice would you give her as an older woman? And not, you know what I mean? We're older than her. Like from one sister training up another queen in the way she should go. What would you say?
What I would tell her is family is important. Tell your story, but at least try to do your part to tell your story, but to tell your truth, but also to leave the door open for reconciliation. There's nothing wrong with reconciliation. From what I've seen, she told us some things, but I didn't see anything that was that bad where you would just say, I don't want anything to do with those people, my siblings, my father, now Nell or whatever she did to you, because she said a lot of things that she made me believe that, she didn't like Nell specifically, but she would say not the whole family. She didn't want anything to do with it. So I would say reconciliation, always be ready for that, because from my stance as a Christian, I believe that you are to forgive, so you shall be forgiven. That's just how I was brought up. That's how I teach my children. And that's what I would tell her. Never close the door to forgiveness. Tell your story, yes. Forgive yourself, forgive them, and then you'll be in a better place as a mother, as a daughter, as a child, as a niece, in all areas of your life, a business owner, whatever. That's
and
what
also grace. I would also insert grace and have a long conversation with her about what grace and what that involves. Because I notice more and more as a society, we are forgetting to allow people grace, especially now. And I believe Lexi's a mother. As a parent, we want to be perfect, but we're never going to be perfect and we're going to get it wrong. So you would think that she's in a more understanding position. Maybe it's not the same things, but hey, you're going to mess up sometimes. So the same way you would want your child to allow you that grace, allow your father this grace.
Okay. Oh, this is a good conversation. Let's continue to evolve. Michelle says, when are we going to hold Chris accountable? And there was also another comment along the same lines. I don't know if you missed my recap and my reaction to Lexi's interview, but I did my reaction to Lexi, and then I held Chris accountable. So if you haven't seen that video, feel free to check it out. I try to be fair with it, and let me know what your thoughts are for those of you that have not had a chance to hear my take on Chris. Terrell Singer, welcome. You're up next. Karen, you're on standby, and then Valerie, and then my other two people. Terrell, what are your thoughts?
So I have been in Lexi's situation before. I'll run a quick story down. My father passed in 2012. 2015, I got a call from my aunt asking me, did I receive anything from my father's estate? And I told her no. The next thing I knew, I was doing a DNA test. And to this day, they still haven't told me why I had to do this DNA test. I did not receive anything from his estate, and his family just went about it, oh, just get over it. I say that all to say that I would like for Lexi to heal herself, go to therapy. And also, I want to piggyback off something Miss Hannah said. Leave the door open. You have to give Mr. Chris a chance to talk to you. But if you're so hard up and you're so mean and just throwing stuff, it's never gonna work. And so I say that to say I hope Lexi just goes to therapy and heal herself, but also give Mr. Chris a chance while he's still here, present on Earth, a chance to talk things out, and you guys get to the point of talking and forgive each other and just go from there.
In your opinion, I thank you, first of all, for giving such a personable and up close example. Did they ever check on you, or do you feel like that you were just a kid and nobody really cares about the kids, even when you become adults? What were like? What did you do with all of that, being jerked around like that, Terrell?
Okay, so when he died, I was 20, 21, already dealing with, like, I would say an identity crisis because he wasn't there in my life. But when the DNA test came around, I was livid. And my mom always said, just calm down. I know who your father is. Um, I had to deal with it by going to therapy because I think Big Sister Courtney said when you carry that, it eats at you. And you can't let something eat at you because you will never be able to become a productive citizen for yourself and for the public. So I had to go to therapy because you cannot let family, whatever they think of you, detour you from what you think of yourself. So I had to do a lot of work to get to where I'm at now because I was so angry like her. But once I went to therapy and a little growing up, and I had to learn, I can't let them get me down because they going out partying, they sleeping at night, and I'm still holding on to this. I gotta let this go, and I gotta fly. So that's how I dealt with it.
Okay. I think often, in my opinion, I think we overlook kids. I think we don't give kids enough recognition. We don't see them until they become adults. But kids struggle before they become adults. And that's why I asked you that. And a lot of times we overlook them and we shut them down. But with that being said, Karen, welcome to the stage. Marisha, you up next. Karen, what are your thoughts?
Um, I was the one that said, is it Chris's absence or Nell's presence? That's the
Yes, that was
problem.
a great question.
Yeah. We have to really kind of get to the root of the problem. And Lexi voiced her reality, and we can't deny that. We can't take that away from her. But one's reality may not be the truth or 100% of the truth. So we really need to hear Chris's side. And I really hate that Nell put out a live saying they're going to play it out in the next season of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Because one thing we know is that Lexi did not leave anything on the edit floor. She said what she said. She vomited all over that forum. But on Love and Marriage Huntsville, we know that production is notorious for cutting and clipping and splicing and dicing, and we don't know if we're still going to get the truth. So I really hate that she's going to wait until when is that, June or something, that's going to come up. But I really do feel that I thought that in some way Chris has been in communication with Lexi. They had talked about the past. He did apologize. And I thought that he did make an effort to make amends, because even when she was leaving out from the house, she said, "Yeah, I haven't seen you in 28 years." And he said, "That's a bunch of bull."
She
You know,
said you didn't really emotionally bond. You ain't really just been there until age 20.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I have to kind of wonder about that. And I am. I grew up with a stepfather, came in my life about age 5, same as Lexi. And, we didn't get along well. We had some issues when I was going into my teen years, but, he's my dad. I love him to death, can't take anything away from him. He's always been there for me. I never once, I know nothing about my biological father. My mom, she may have mentioned him once or twice, but I never questioned her, and she's still alive, but I never questioned her because I didn't want to hurt her, and I knew it was something painful for her. But I never had that, just that need to know who he is. And I know some people search for their parents. Actually, one of my mother's friends' daughter contacted her because she was searching for her father. And my mother asked, "Have you ever thought about looking for your father?" And I said, "Why? I just don't have a need." Um, so people are, trauma hits people in different ways. And I think with Lexi, from what I've heard and listening to her on that live, there's a lot of mental issues going on with her. And I think some of it,
Mental or emotional?
I think mental and emotional.
Okay.
That's my view. I do feel that there's something coming up that, she mentioned she's on medication. She stopped taking the medication and then they had a regress in her progress. So I think there's some mental and some emotional things coming up. And it could be the further issue is taking more precedence because of issues. I'm not a therapist, a psychiatrist. I don't know that for sure, but it just seems like there's so many gaps in her
Mm.
story. There was a lot of contradiction in her story. And unfortunate for me, I did not feel the interviewer was a good interviewer. I think he was a gracious interviewer. He allowed her the platform to say whatever she wanted to say. He did not drill down, push back, or ask for clarity. And I think that was a missed opportunity. He didn't have to back into a corner or make her feel bad, but I think some of these obvious contradictions, he should have questioned her a little further to say, well, where was Chris at this time? Or when was the last time you actually heard from him? And that would have also guided the interview a little more, as opposed to letting her just, run wild, through the whole. I
You broke up.
had to come in and say a
There you
couple
go.
of things to
Okay.
correct some of the contradictions, but she didn't. Nothing stuck, and it's like everyone's walking around on eggshells around Lexi on eggshells because they don't want to hurt her or really send her backwards. That's why I think there's some emotional
All right.
as well as some mental issues going on.
Well, thank you so much for thank you, Karen. I think the interviewer did a good job. I think he was handling the situation in a very delicate manner
Yes,
because
he was
there are,
very delicate.
and I think he just wanted to give her a place just to vent and talk, right?
Mhm.
And when you think
But
about
that's
the
dangerous too. I mean,
sensitivity
I can
of
see
it,
Martell wanting to have Martell he's called him up already so that he can so that
well,
he can so I said Martell probably has called this man already so that he can have just be able to do his little bashing on Mel and think the man would not challenge him or push back. So that could be a little dangerous as well.
well, I think he was being tender, right? You
Yes.
can't, like, I just think considering the fact that it was such an abrupt exit from the show and we never got to see the outcome of that, I think what he was trying to do is help her kind of get a little bit of closure with the audience and tie up loose
Mhm.
ends. But with that being said, Marisha, you up next, and how I see it, you're on standby. Marisha, what are your thoughts? You're on mute.
Hi, how are you?
I'm
This is
good.
my
Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. This is my first time calling in, and I want to say, first of all, I enjoy your commentary and your insight. It's very insightful and thought out and well planned.
Thank you.
So, I want to tell you that I've been on both sides of the coin. I've had a horrible stepmother who used to laugh at me and do things to get me in trouble with my father to allow for him to punish me. So, I made it a point in my life when I became a mother or a stepmother to be very loving and caring towards any child. And I chose not to have children, but I did end up having a stepdaughter. And I will say 100% for me, and looking at my situation and even this situation, the father is to blame, because it is his job to cultivate, nurture, and build that relationship with their child. I had many of fights with my ex-husband of, where's your daughter? Let's go get her. We could do this with her. Blah, 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 just so many things. And he would be like, oh, she lives too far. Okay, fine, I'll go get her. And I would drive 3.5 hours to go get her. But at the same time, it was like when she came here, he didn't want to do anything with her. So what I did was I made a point to say, hey, I made you guys an appointment at the bowling alley. You guys need to hit that up. Bye-bye. And with all of that and him not trying to really nurture their relationship, she became very bitter and hardened. And a lot of it fell on me, which I accepted because she didn't understand the dynamics and the things that were going on in our house. And I'm sure her mother probably said a bunch of different things. And later on, she grew up and she said these things to me. And I did say, we have to ask your mother, because I asked her mother if I could take her to Chicago so she could see the museums. I asked her to take her on a cruise. Her mother had 5 kids. She said, if I take one, I got to take them all. Nobody can afford to take 5.
No.
Right. Nobody can afford to take somebody's 5 children that I'm not technically responsible for on any type of vacation. I'm trying to help you with 1 or maybe 2 of them, but not 5. So within this dynamic, Lexi is valid in her pain. But her pain is displayed in the wrong way. She needs to display it to her father. He needs to just listen to it, apologize, and ask her what could he do moving forward to heal their relationship. Nell has to stay out of it, because I call myself a stepmother because they step right over you because they need to get to their father. And that's just point blank, period. Because they want a relationship with their father. They don't care about you truly. They'll love you and they'll want to be with you and do things with you, but they really want that bond with their father, and they want things explained to them as if they're in preschool of how things happen and how things took place.
Oh, that's great. Such great, excellent points by the panel. I'm going to go to the next person, then I'm going to keep doing a roundtable because everybody's bringing such great perspectives. I saw something. Somebody said, who was it? Okay. Janine says apology is not enough. I agree with you, Janine. I think it's deeper than an apology. I think Lexi has such a huge hole in her heart from her father not being there, and her father basically being a hoe. Let's call it what it is. Okay, back when she was younger, Chris was in the streets. Chris was for the streets. Chris is a very good looking man, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of benefit that came with that by way of women. Okay, so I agree with you, Janine, that there's a lot of deep work to be done. And my other thing for you all to start thinking about, panelists in chat, women, how do you sleep at night, or how do you remain with a man who don't see their kids? Think about that. How do you explain that to yourself? Do you not look at him and say, he's sorry? It ain't no excuse not to see them kids. Hold your thoughts, panelists. Let me go to how I see it. Valerie, you're up next, followed by Braylon Lee and Shell Chell. All right, how I see it. What are your thoughts?
Hi, good night, Queen Sheba. Are you hearing me clearly?
Say it again.
Okay, so you're not. 1 second, let me go.
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, so I sent this to your DM, but I was like, no, let me just jump on the chat real quick and say this, because, as you always say, you own in on the psychological. So there is a phenomenon in psychology that's called misattribution, I think is the word, or false memory, right? And there's this Dr. Daniel L. Skater. He has a book called The 7 Sins of Memory, How the Mind Forgets and Remembers. And it's all about how we sometimes have these vivid memories from the past, but it's distorted based on time passing, or because of social influences, or because someone is in our ear giving us suggestions about things that, about things. And so when we hear, I'm going to use Lexi as my example. When we hear someone like Lexi, speak on her childhood. And first, when I listened to the interview, I was like, I believe her. And then when I went back and I listened to it again, I was like, okay, there's some pieces in there that, sounds a little bit iffy. And when I looked up this phenomenon, because, I study a little bit of psychology. So when I looked up this phenomenon, in the book, Dr. Skater, he says that it's not intentional. It's not an intentional fabrication, right? It's unconscious. It's an unconscious thing. And as I said, it's because time has passed, things happening, the social influences, and maybe because somebody's in her ear telling her that, no, this is actually what happened. You don't remember it right. And as time passes, and she's holding on to these distorted memories, it becomes her truth, not because she's lying, but because she honestly believes that this is what her childhood was. So I feel like the interview, this is a way for Chris to actually listen to his daughter and to hear exactly how she feels about her childhood, and not to hold it against her, but to hear her out and maybe correct some of the things that she's not remembering correctly so that she can heal. So maybe the interview was a blessing in disguise.
Maybe it was. That's a very good that's a different angle, right? And with that being said, somebody else said something. Oh, Latasha says, I believe Chris has tried. Lexi seems to be exhausting, to be honest.
Cheers. I agree.
Oh, y'all. Okay, let me run through the panel real quick. In your opinion, yes or no? I'm gonna go Nate. I'm gonna go one by one, and then we got Valerie's next. Is Lexi emotionally, or comes across, and this is not an attack, this is just from what you've seen, does she appear to be emotionally exhausting, Courtney?
For me, yes. It seems like yes. Yes.
Okay. Hannah?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Terrell?
Yes.
Marisha? Oh, wow. Marisha.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, man. Goody, in your opinion?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Shell. Am I saying it right? Shell?
It's Shelly Shell.
Shelly Shell. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. And Queen, thank you for allowing me to come up. I do think she has some emotional problems. Yes.
Okay. And then hold your thoughts, because I'm coming to you after Braylon. Braylon, do you think, in your opinion,
Yes.
oh, yes. Oh, my Valerie.
Yes.
Oh, man. Okay, how I see it.
I don't want to be different, but I want to be honest. And if I'm just going off the interview alone, I would say yes.
Okay, that's okay. It's just yes or no, and that's fine.
Yeah. If I'm just basing my opinion on the interview alone, I would
Uh-huh.
say yes. Yeah.
Oh, man. Damn. I thought Lexi would at least get one no. Valerie.
Hi.
Valerie. Oh my gosh. What are your thoughts?
I think that her mother plays a huge role in this. Um, I have a lot of different perspectives. I'm going to talk really fast to try to bring my point together. I'm a single mother. I have 2 kids, 2 different baby dads. So I was Lexi's mom, and I had to protect my children. So when it came down to telling them things in regards to their father and their situation and them wanting to go around their dad, I had to present it in a way that would protect them because I knew that they wouldn't understand. So I didn't allow them to have an unrealistic expectation, and I didn't put them in a position to have an unrealistic expectation. I didn't go back and give them dirt on what happened. Um, None of those things. And I feel that you, as a parent, you know your child, you know their emotional mindset. And that's what I feel her mother's not really protecting her from. You putting her in therapy, that's good. But as a parent, and when you know your child can't handle something, you don't give it to them. You don't give them something that they're not emotionally mature enough to handle. That's one point. The other point is I do think that Lexi has a lot of mental issues because I have encountered a lot of friends who have children who display the same type of behavior as Lexi. And I also have a niece who acts just like Lexi. And she has a thing for me for something I've done to her when she was a kid, didn't even know about it. And you cannot move her from how she feels. She's full of hate. She's full of anger. And so when you get people that stuck like that, no matter what Chris may have tried to do, if it doesn't go the way Lexi feels that it should go, there's no movement there. If she has it in her head that this is the way my life should have been because I'm his oldest child, I was first, I was this, I was that, nobody can move her from that. So, I just feel that there's more diagnosis that needs to happen with her, more so than just saying, oh, she's been in therapy. Her coming online and displaying how she feels about her dad, that's cool, but we're only getting one side of the story in hers. And it's, with a lot of other people, it's got a lot of missing pieces in there. And if your dad left that too, how would you know all this stuff if your mother didn't give it to you? And if your mother knew that you couldn't handle it, why is she allowing you to revisit this again at 32 years old? I'm just confused, So a lot of people are saying, Chris, Chris, Chris. Let me go back to that. He was a young father. She was a young mother. He made a lot of mistakes. He may have tried throughout the years. We don't know. But for her to come and hold some things over his head from 20 years ago and bring it forefront like it just happened yesterday, and the whole YouTube streets are in an uproar, I don't agree with that. I
So
don't agree with it at
let's
all.
do this though, panel, this for everybody. Do we not do a good enough job of seeing each other's pain? And do we jump too quick? Everybody, we got a little feedback. Do we jump too quick to ask each other to move on? Do we really see each other's pain like we should, in your opinion, Valerie?
No, we don't. And it's not for us to see because it's a relationship type of thing. And we're only going to get a small segment of it. And I'm not negating her pain. I just don't think that what she's bringing forth now from when she was 2 and all those other years is something that can be solved by coming out telling her so-called truth.
All right. Thank you for that beautiful breakdown. And with that being said, Braylon Lee, give me 1 second. You're going to be up next as soon as I cover my super chats.
Money, 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 money comes to me, flowing effortlessly. Money, 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 money comes to me, comes to me, comes to me, comes to me. Money, 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 money comes to me, flowing effortlessly. Money, 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 money comes to me, comes to me, comes to me. Money, 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 money.
Yes, money, 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 money comes to me by way of Love Me with a 5-piece and a pepper, honey. She says, I think Chris was chasing women and Nell was chasing Chris. All of the children were neglected, and this is why Nell buys them such expensive gifts. Woo! That's definitely something to consider. All right, so let's go to Leslie. Money, 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 money comes to me by way of Leslie with a 5-piece, honey, a 5-piece and a pepper. And she says Nell should be pushing Chris to have a relationship with his daughter, period. And she said what she said. I agree. I agree. And to the day you take your last breath, you never stop. Now, I'm not saying to the point of no return, because you do have to have a level of balance and a peace of mind and protect your peace. But I don't think a parent should ever stop unless there's dire circumstances such as abuse, manipulation, drugs, and things like that. Dr. Alec Nicole, PhD, welcome as a new member of the Palace, Queen. We will see you behind the wall. Braylon Lee, you're up next. What are your thoughts?
Hey, good people. Good to see and hear everybody. The song that comes to me the most is Luther Vandross, A House Is Not a Home. I'll give a quick story. When I moved from Arkansas to Ohio, the house that I moved out of wasn't just any old house. It was my bit mama's house. My bit mama's no longer here. And I was not the best child to my mom and dad moving to Ohio. And at first, I was upset about moving from my home state. But then I had to step back and think about it. Wait a minute, am I upset at my parents for moving me from my state, or am I upset about the memory that I no longer will be waking up in? And I say that story to relate to Lexi. It seems to me that she's holding on to a mental house of memories, and she hasn't been able to move on into this new house of memories. And also, too, with my stepdad, who I call dad, there was a time where me and him were disagreeing. My mom said, "Do you not know the person that you're fighting against wanted to adopt you and give you his last name?" A lot of times, as a stepchild, you will take out your emotion on others when you don't know how to we don't know how to articulate it. So with the interview in Queen Sheba, I reviewed the interview on Virtual Tour Live, and it was really 50-50. Some people were Team Lexi, other people were not Team Lexi, but the one thing that rang true was Lexi's hurt. My mom has a rule that she says, if I'm 100 and you 99, I'm still your mama. I think the reason why Lexi cannot have that respect is because she's holding on to the disrespect of the past. And when she said that the only conversation of her and Chris will happen is in heaven, that pain that you're holding on to for your dad, that pain can translate to other areas of your life. And your kids only have one mom. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that. Good to be here.
Very good perspective from both sides. I feel like you gave a 360 and really tied it up and wrapped it up. Really, really nice. Thank you so much, Braylon. Queen I says, y'all act like what she's been through doesn't contribute to her current issues. Lexi is in pain. How can we not see this? Shelly Shell, you're up next. What are your thoughts? Goldie, you're on standby.
Hi, everybody. And I agree with everybody, and the opinions that we've heard so far. Everybody has the right opinion about it, in my opinion. Haha. But anyway, let me tell you what my opinion really is about everything. I have been on all sides of this, and I'm currently in a situation where I'm raising my grandson full time because his mother suffers from mental health and drug addiction. He does not know his father, and right now he hates him, and he doesn't even know him and doesn't know his side of the story. And I always try to walk in other people's shoes. And Lexi is 32 years old. When her parents broke up, just like with me and my husband, when we divorced, my daughter, the one I'm talking about, I've got custody of her child right now. My daughter was raised really good, had everything she ever wanted. We middle class family. She went to the Clark Atlanta, all of that. Did everything I could do. And I think sometimes we overcompensate for broken families and trying to heal ourselves at the same time, because most of us are broken people that are in broken relationships, and we do not know all sides. And I think I commented on your video, Queen, on your comment section about this. Until I can hear or at least get their side of the story, we're not going to know all of the circumstances involved in the original estrangement of the marriage. I heard her say her dad was in the military during the period of time when her and him and the mom broke up. and she was like 3 or 4. And some of the details that she was given, it was like somebody had fed those details to her. And we don't know how early on in the estrangement of the family, or when the family broke up, what state of mind her mother was in when that happened. And so there's 3 different perspectives going on. There's Chris' perspective, there's mom's perspective, and the baby at the time. And what she's holding on to, we don't know if it was arguments and all of that, if she witnessed some DV going on between them. We don't know all the details. And both parents remarried, and both parents had additional children. So you got Lexi in the middle of all of this as a child growing up. We don't know the dynamic, what was going on with the mother's new family. We can see a little glimpse of what's going on with Chris and Nell because they're on television. So we can see that he's trying to make up for a lot of mistakes that he's made with both marriages. And Lexi was invited to come and be a part of what, for whatever reason, that we were introduced to her with the family. So it's hard for me to believe that they don't like her, they don't want her around, because she felt real comfortable speaking up at the table before the daughter, Nell's daughter, didn't say nothing. She was doing all the talking, and Nell was interacting with her, to me, like she was her daughter. And if I didn't know no different, I wouldn't have known that she was not Nell's daughter. So, it's perspectives, and we all have them. And until we can walk in another person's shoes or have experienced it ourselves, sometimes you can love a child. And I know I love my daughter, and I know I gave her a decent upbringing. We have a long lineage history in America. My family does. So she comes from a long line of people. And Nat Turner would be one of those people in my family. We've always raised our children to get their education, to be productive members of society, all of that. But she chose a different route. She lived in Atlanta for a while. She dated. She's very attractive. She got very intelligent, had her own businesses and everything. But she was struggling with some internal stuff. And if you're not talking to people and then letting them know how you feel, you don't know. And people break down. And I'm not trying to switch the subject, but look at this situation with Martell, Melody, and their kids. And those little kids, you can tell Melody is giving them everything to keep them loved and feeling secure. And, trying not to, to make the separation as painless as possible, but it's painful despite all she's doing. And sometimes we can't do enough. And I'm not going to judge Chris yet. I'm not going to judge him even if I find out everything, because there are different extenuating circumstances. And broken people, he's broken too. He's not perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all come to the relationship table bringing our stuff, our baggage. And when he met Nell, however they met, he had baggage, and Nell fell in love with him with his baggage. And Lexi came along with his, that was his baby, and she had a son. So I can see those two, probably commiserating and falling in love over something similar, because she had a husband or a boyfriend or something too. So, it's a lot of moving pieces. It's complicated. And Lexi, to me, she wanted to embarrass them. She wanted to make everybody feel like they're not decent people towards her. And I don't get that. I get that, yeah, it's something going on. The family need to go get help with it if that's what it takes. But she's 32 years old now, and she's a mother, so she got to have some kind of empathy now to see how hard it is being a parent and trying to work on self, love God, and still deal with everyday life situations. And sometimes we mess up, and he messed up. I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't mess up, but we still need to hear how he tried to fix it and what he's done. That's all I'm saying, Queen.
I agree. Let me ask y'all something, panel, real quick before I go to Goody. Is, in your opinion, for your taste, because this is a real deep situation, and that's why I'm covering it. That's why I was like, this is so good. And this is like a phenomenon in our community, right? Absentee fathers. Some of them in the house and still absent. That's a whole different other conversation, right? I was here. No, you weren't. You know, like there's so many, but it's just the conversation is to break it down to build it back up. Panel, in your opinion, yes or no? Is Chris too quiet for something this large? For something so important? Courtney.
I don't know yet because I haven't heard his rebuttal. So I don't know.
Okay, so if you think about Lexi's appeared on the show, she's talked about her hurt and the pain. She's done an interview. In your opinion, should he have said something by now to address?
No,
No,
no.
not necessarily. No,
Mm-mm.
no, because for me, Lexi is very angry. You don't want to say the wrong thing. Maybe Lexi needs some space, and we have not heard his rebuttal. I don't see how. I don't even see. I'm looking at the comments. I don't see how so many people are so matter of fact with only one version of the story.
Well, that's why I said 'cause I think it's a tough subject because everybody can relate. Like even y'all as
I can.
panel.
I had a terrible stepmother, but as a woman and experiencing life, I know that everybody is looking through their lens. So without hearing everybody's version of their
Mhm.
story and their pain, we can't just matter of factly say Lexi is telling the truth. Y'all don't know. Y'all met Lexi. We ain't met
Um,
Lexi, Nell, or Chris. We don't know.
we didn't
Okay.
meet.
We're only listening to what they're telling us. So until you can make an objective decision once you hear all forms of the story, and then it can say, okay, this we can pick this, okay, that yeah. But with one side of the story, how are y'all so matter of fact?
Exactly.
No,
We
I
didn't
can't.
meet
That's
Lexi,
the
but
part
we
that I
met the
don't
You know
understand.
dynamic.
why? Because it hits. I'm gonna be honest. It hit home for a lot of people.
It hit home for me. Like I said, when I was growing up, my stepmom was nice until I told y'all my mom had an addiction, so I had to go stay with my dad for a while. When I
Mhm.
went to stay with them, she was terrible. She was terrible. She was nice all up until then. She was terrible. But that's my experience. That's
We
what
did
I
not.
experienced.
We
So
did not meet Lexi.
when
We
I when I
we
hear
saw the
Lex
dynamic.
when
Hold
I
on.
hear
Let Courtney finish. Go ahead, Courtney, and then we'll
when
go
I
to
hear
them.
Lexi tell her story, I'm going off of what she is saying. Now, because I had this experience for Courtney, I cannot translate that over to Lexi, Nell, and Chris. I have to hear their story and get a real perspective on what had going on. Just because I had a bad stepmama experience does not mean that I can just say, Lexi, I relate, because I had that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to hear all sides. And another thing is, we always childhood trauma is a big that's something widespread. We always talk about childhood trauma, and I'm not negating. I said when I first got up here, I feel like Chris was neglected Lexi in some ways. He did. He admitted it. But we do not talk enough about parenting. Is my parents gave me grace as a child when I didn't do things right, and I hope my children extend that grace to me because I am a flawed human being. Yes, I am your parents, but I am still flawed.
Mm-hmm.
I am still learning. I'm 38, but I am still learning me. I
That's
may
right.
I may mess up sometimes, and it has nothing to do with my children. I'm not messing up to put trauma on y'all. Sometimes I'm trying to get me together. Please don't hold that against me.
Good point.
Let's talk about it. Like parents, we need to extend grace to parents too, and that's a word for me. We have to learn to extend grace to parents too,
We're
because
gonna come back to
all of
that,
us are
Courtney.
humans. Hmm.
We're gonna come back to that because we're gonna talk about Chris in a minute. But real quick, sorry to cut you off. I'm gonna get yes or no panel. Is Chris too quiet or is he just fine? Courtney said no, he's doing just fine. Hannah, what are your thoughts, real quick? And then
Okay.
Terrell.
I think the baseline was a dinner. I think he's already spoken for now. And then just be quiet now. Later on, come on back out. But I have enough to say that he's spoken enough
Okay.
from that dinner.
Okay. Terrell, would you like to hear more from Chris? Should he come out or is he doing just fine?
I think if he speaks or if he doesn't speak, he's going to be in a no-win situation. And like Courtney just said, I will say, I want to hear all the facts. Has he tried to talk to you and you shut the door on him? Or has he not said anything before I can make a fair judgment? So I don't know really how to answer that question.
Okay. That's fair. Marisha.
I think he's doing a good job at not saying anything because I feel people process things differently, and you need to like go down that timeline and try to figure out, like maybe he's figuring out where did I F up and trying to piece all of that together to see maybe how he can approach her in a different way if he has approached her in many ways. But he's probably just processing. You know, everybody compartmentalizes things differently, so he's good being silent.
Okay. How I see it, some feel like he's doing a good job. He may be processing, not yet. The chat is split down the middle. This is such a great conversation. I'm telling y'all. How I see it. Is he too quiet? Is everything okay? Just he
I
needs to
think
chill or
I
what?
think he needs to handle this privately. I don't want to see this become a social media online battle. I think it's too sensitive. So I'm hopeful that if he is saying anything, he's continuing to say it privately because we don't know. Or if he's planning on saying something, I hope he's thinking, you know what, let me not and deal with this privately. So
Okay.
for me, not knowing whether or not he's saying anything is good at
Perfect.
this point. Yeah.
Valerie.
I'm kind of torn in the middle. I personally think that I'm with her. He needs to take it offline. And I'm with the other person that said that he's probably not going to win, even if he does speak up at this point. As far as with Lexi, there's a whole lot more. So they would have to start from the very beginning. And also, I think that's part of his personality, as he's just a very delayed person in responding to a lot of things. If we watch him on the show, the way Martell clowned his wife, I'm still trying to, understand that. So just imagine him trying to talk to Lexi and she's on 10. He's probably sitting there looking like a deer caught in headlights, trying to figure out, what do I say? I mean, that's just what I take from him, just from watching his demeanor. So offline, but yes, definitely speak.
All
All
right.
right.
Braylon Lee.
You know what? I'll say this. I think he is doing just fine. There are times where you have to be the calm in the middle of a storm. If Lexi is a typhoon and Chris is a typhoon, then everybody's going to get drenched in this hurricane. So I think he's doing fine for now.
Okay. Thank you, Braylon. Shelly Shell.
Well, I disagree with everybody about him doing fine right now. I think that, well, I do agree that this is something that their family ought to handle outside of the social media. But I think that Chris is a passive man, and he's not one of those persons that can deal with confrontation well. You can tell that from just watching him. He's a quiet man. My grandfather was like that. And Nell is an Aquarius like my grandmother. And so they're very bossy, very outspoken, and they will tell you exactly what's on their mind any time of the day. And most of the time, they do stand for what's right. They try to think that they're right about a lot of things, but we're flawed. All of us are flawed, and I think that the family is growing, and you want to go back and dig up something that happened 25 or 27 years ago when it was fresh. It's still fresh in her mind, and I just think that there's not enough they can do to reassure her at this point. She's got to work through some things, and she has to let that little girl go that's inside of her and become a woman and
All right.
realize that people make mistakes.
That's fair. Damn, this is like a bomb ass panel. I gotta say. Goody, you got the floor. You've been patiently waiting. The floor belongs to you.
Few thoughts. Everyone's saying he should say something. He should have said something to Martell. He should speak up. However, the reality is they tell us it is best to be slow to anger, to sit back and process things before you respond. Reactive does not win you any points. Martell is reactive. We saw the family dynamic taking a step back. Lexi said she had not seen her family until TV came along. They made a decision that they, as a family, were going to go and get the bag because they know the personalities within their family dynamic. We all wanted to see more Fletchers. They know what they have there. They know they have a bag there. They did not want to leave her out of the bag, even though they knew her behavior might go left just by a tick. People are saying her sister called her the B word. I have a sister. I commented on one of your posts. I am one of 6 children. I have a sister who was not my dad's child. She was treated as if she was. The reality of the situation is the only way my mother could have pleased her was to not have had any other children. We did nothing. We were considered the golden children. We were raised, I'm from Barbados, first American. My mother did come here and leave my sister behind. The goal was to bring her here. I was raised knowing I had a sister. We ate so many cans of corned beef in the struggle to make sure every cent went to the right direction to bring her here. It was ridiculous. But what she thought was we were out here balling out of control. Any family outing would be something where we didn't know if it was going to be a left turn when she was around. You had to warn people who did not know her, hey, this is my sister, things might go left. Be easy. The only thing my mother could do was wash her hands, because what my sister started to do was use her children as blackmail or as leverage. If she wanted to hurt anyone in my family, she pulled her children back, which breaks your heart. Lexi did that when she said she sent the Christmas gifts back. She's letting you know I'm in control of this relationship with the children. Chris is doing fine to not speak, because if anything he has to say, I'm sure she has left proof all over Huntsville of her dynamic disposition. We don't need to see what's going to happen next for them, because for us to see it, it would make great television, but it would hurt that whole family more. Healing is what's necessary. I wouldn't have been in favor of her doing the interview. However, you cannot heal what you don't reveal. He has probably heard things from her perspective he'd never heard before. And now he knows what he needs to do. I don't believe that he's a man who doesn't care for his child. If that were the case, if everything Lexi was saying were true, they would not have had her at that table. We would have seen her maybe like Ariane Curry. They ain't even invite me. My family hate me. I'm the black sheep. I'm the black sheep. We don't need to see what happens next. My heart goes out to her, but I understand what it's like to deal with her type of disposition. I understand what it's like to deal with all of it. It is exhausting. There's nothing you can do to satisfy it. Like I said, the only thing that my mother could have done is not have more children. That's my piece. And I try not to be I don't want to be emotionally guided here, because I've experienced being on the wrong side of Alexi, right? I don't want to be that person who sees this from that lens. So I try to step out and detach and just look at it. They do need to heal. Maybe he needs to be a part of the therapy. Wait, I did say I was done, but one more thing. I have a friend who had a child, and him and the mother didn't get along. The mother was bitter, and she tanked raising the child. He fought for the child, court, till one day he went to pick his child up, and she ended up trying to fight him because she got a tattoo. He thought maybe her cell phone was too much. He gave her a flip phone so she wouldn't have all the social media. She started hitting him and fighting him over this phone. He was done. He said he washed his hands. I say to him, you have to fight for your child. Fight, fight, fight. And he said to me, I will fight anyone for my child, but I cannot fight my child for my child. I can't fight her, and I am done. And if anyone thinks I'm not a good father, there are dockets galore that show I fought a good fight, and I paid a ton of money. This is on her and her mother now. Today, his young child is a mother And now we have to figure out how we deal with that.
Yep. Well, beautifully stated, Goldie. You got a lot of supporters that are saying that they can relate. You even got somebody that say they disagree. It happens. It happens. What I would like to do really quick is I got a lot of questions that came through the chat, and I would like to filter them out to the panelists. You will all not be asked the same question. And then if you can, we got so many people that are trying to get in. So after I give you your question and you speak on it in detail, do me a favor and drop down so that we can get other people up here. So the first question I'm going to highlight really quickly, and I am going to go to, let me see, let me get it real quick. Hold on. Let me go to, okay. The first question, kind of a statement, but I'm going to form a question off of it. Is from Pacino Rules. It says, Nell said it was Chris's idea to invite Lexi to dinner. You know why I saved this one? Because it took me back to that dinner. And in that moment when Nell said that, I'm going to give this question to Hannah Grace. I felt like she didn't want, I told him not to invite her. And the fact that she said it on TV, but he wanted her anyway. Well, first of all, the first thing I thought is that's his child. Of course. Your babies are here. You see what I'm saying? Your babies together and your babies separate are here. Do you feel like Nell, there may be some validity, Hannah Grace, to Lexi's feelings of Nell trying to isolate her from her father based on Pacino's comment?
You know, that did raise my antennas when she said that. She said it. And then once I thought about it, I was like, well, the way Lexi acted at the dinner, it was explosive dinner. I say it like that. But at first I was thinking, why did she say that? She did not want her there. And then I said, that can't be what it is. It's got to be more. So I think that she probably knew, again, what they all said was that Lexi was going to come back and try to bring up things from the past, act like she was not given certain things and the other kids were. And I guess in her position as Nell sitting there as a matriarch of this dinner, it made her look bad. It made her family look worse. So I'm thinking she was just trying to protect the scene, protect how the family dynamics people were going to perceive the family based upon that explosive episode and what Lexi did. And don't get me wrong, everybody was wrong, but I think Nell was thinking if she hadn't came, then the scene may have went a different way. It would have went a different way, and we would look like a different family. But now we see Lexi and her not getting along with the family, and then other things coming out. So I just think that my antennas did go up, but I think it was more about Nell not wanting the family introduction to the world to go left like that. And she shouldn't have said it.
She should not have said that out loud.
I think she definitely shouldn't have said it. And I think that Chris running out to the car, trying to get her to come back in and trying to smooth things over, spoke volumes to me as well. That's all I. Thank you for letting me come up. I enjoy the convo. I'll be in the bushes.
Okay. All right. The line is open. If anybody want to pops up, I agree with you, Hannah, from start to finish. I think it was wrong of Nell to say that. I think it's wrong for anybody to publicly say anybody should not be there, because I don't care how healthy you are or how unhealthy you may be to those around you. When somebody signs it, seals it, and delivers it, it validates that you're not welcome. It validates that you're the black sheep of the family. And I think Chris should have run after Lexi because it was wrong of Nell to say that. Now, keep in mind, Lexi did say things went left because they started talking about her mama. And all y'all know, black folks don't play when it comes to their mama. So I was like, oh, okay. Now that she gave a little bit more, she said, no, I wouldn't, what they try to make it seem like, you start talking about my mama. And that's when the gloves came off. Now, let's go to Courtney. This is for you from Tiffany Gray. Well, Lil Chris was in the house and ended up in jail and roaming the streets at 3 a.m. with not much on his mind, with so much on his mind. So apparently Lexi isn't the only child with issues. Courtney, the reason why I gave you this statement is because you said you're going to wait for Chris to come out to hear his side. Now that we know we have two of Chris's kids, two of his biological kids that have seriously considered taking their own lives.
Mhm.
Do you feel like Chris is responsible for some of these challenges that these grown adults are having?
I said that when I started. I feel like Chris is the culprit. Chris is who everybody needs to direct this to. Adding her siblings and Nell, Chris is the problem. And I also feel like we're looking at Lexi like a lot of these events that she stated are not isolated events. When Chris left abandoned her, he's abandoned Nell's household too. Lexi said she didn't get a car. She then said Lance didn't get a car either. If they were 22, maybe they didn't get the adult children initially get them cars. She's saying like, she's having all these issues. We see that little Chris is having these issues too. And I'm not trying to come off as a pick me, male identified, but some of these events are not isolated. It's more than just you going through it, Lexi. And again, she has to put some of those bags down and that weight down and move forward for herself and her children.
I agree. Very well explained, Courtney. Very good job. Um, let's go to Braylon Lee. I keep looking at this one. I was like, let me give it to Braylon. Braylon, Bravo Addiction Vivian says, I hope her healing is in peace, that she does what is best for her. Lexi says she was cutting them off. Maybe that is best. Braylon, in your opinion, is it best that that Lexi proceeds with her threat of cutting her family off and never talking to them again?
Damn. You know, I think so. As difficult as it is for me to say that, because this story from 30 years ago has already been brought up. And once a wound is opened, no matter how many Band-Aids that you put on it, because Band-Aid don't stick on you, no matter how much peroxide you put on it, the blood is still going to come out. And so sometimes it's better, in the words of Ayanna Van Zandt, to be in peace than in pieces. Personally, my soul doesn't want it because those grandkids need their village. You think of an oak tree and how it gives shade. But in the same token, those kids need their mom. So I would have to say, for those kids to have their mom, I would say, yeah, it'll probably be best.
All right, that's fair. Thank you for being honest, Braylon.
Much love, Queen. Love y'all. See y'all soon.
Okay, let's see. Let me go to the next one. I'm gonna give this one to Shelly Shell. Tamika wants to know, did anyone find it peculiar that Lexi didn't even know how long her parents have been married? Did you find that strange? Did you listen to the interview? Is that strange? Is that normal? What's your thoughts on that, Shelly Shell?
My thoughts are, Queen, is that I caught her in a lot of contradiction, lies, because what I heard her say is that she was around 5 years old when her parents broke up, and that actually she was 3 and her mother remarried when she was 5. And so to answer her question, I do think that Lexi picked and chose her pieces that she wanted to tell the interviewer, T. And I do believe that, she got emotional doing it. And that's when her mother kind of walked into the conversation to sanction some of the stuff she was saying. And I go back once again to my experience with my stepdaughter, because when I got married, I had a 3-year-old stepdaughter, and her mother was murdered. And we were married, getting ready to have my baby, which was her sister, my daughter, the one I'm keeping the baby now. He's 12.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't go to the adoption hearing to get custody of her, because he was in the labor room with me while I was delivering my daughter. And my stepdaughter had a resentment about that for years. She's 47 now. We got a fairly good relationship, but it's still not the way I want it, because I always wanted to be her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she remembers your memories, you think back, we all think back on our childhood and our memories. We form our own opinions and memories about our parents. And some girls make their daddy heroes. My father was there the whole time, but he was drinking and he was doing a lot of DV against my mom. And a lot of that stuff, when I got in a relationship, even though I told myself I wasn't going to be like them, and I did the same thing Lexi did. I didn't want to be around my family because I wanted to excel above that behavior. Put it that way.
Okay.
It didn't work out like that, and you cannot just cut off your family and not speak to them because life is too short for that. And God said we have to love each other. And I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna drop down, but we cannot just uh, hold people accountable if they're not repentant. You know what I'm saying? If they have a sign of repentance that they want to change and be a better person, because we are growing. Every 10 years, you're not the same person you was 10 years ago. And you got to start there. And so for each person, the same way God gives us grace, we have to give others grace, even the people that hurt us. People that have hurt. I mean, I could go on, but I'm not. But you have to get to a place inside of yourself, because this is where you have to find that happy place inside of yourself to love yourself and forgive yourself for a lot of stuff that you did. But you still, in the same token, you're going to have to forgive those who made errors raising you and doing bad things to you coming up. And sometimes it's harder for others to process. And like my precious daughter that I love so much, I wish that she could understand how much she's loved, so she could come home and reunite. Right now, she's living like a homeless person in the city of New York. And she's getting locked up and getting in mental institutions every other week. And she got money and she don't have to live like that. So it's no amount of love that you can do when people reach a certain point in their adulthood if they still holding on to things that hurt them in their childhood. They have to want to change and want to mend that relationship. And if
Amen.
Lexi doesn't want to mend the relationship, she can't come on public platforms and act like the people that have been in her life all her life aren't trying to mend with her. So we got to find out some more, Queen, before we can really have this conversation. And I can't wait till Nell is doing it her way. But I'm just going to respond to one more thing that I heard. I think it was Valerie.
Can we wrap it up in like 30 seconds?
Real quick.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Real quick. You cannot hold her responsible for when she said she didn't want to invite her, because you don't know how she acts every time she comes around. We got to wait and see some more before we make we need to revisit this conversation, put it that way, after we get more facts. And I love you, and thank you so much. It's my first time getting in. I watch you all the time. I love you. You look just like my sister Terry, and I sent her a picture of you because if you wasn't somebody else's child, I swear you was hers, because y'all look like twins. And I love you, Queen. Keep doing what you're doing. I love you, Panel, everybody. Y'all be good. Love each other. Love on each other.
Thank you. It was a hell of a conversation. Thank you for coming up.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, Terrell, you're in a hot seat, and then I'm going to go to my new people that popped up. I'm just kind of like juggling it around. If we can, panelists, let's keep it to 90 seconds, because I want to make sure everybody get a chance to just share their thoughts. And we got some people that have really been waiting, and I appreciate everybody's patience. This is for Terrell. I thought this would be a good question for Terrell. It's a statement, but I'm going to turn it into a question. Amanda Cooper says, to me, why would she wait so long to voice her feelings? It seems like she's upset about material things that her siblings receive or get. What I don't understand is she said she don't know them or be around them. Terrell, you've been in this position before, even to the point when your father passed away, they had the nerve and the audacity to come and ask you to take a DNA test to prove that you were his child. Why would an adult child, wait or delay sharing how they really feel about the hurt and the pain that their parents have inflicted on them, in your opinion?
Because maybe that's when they were old enough to get to nerve to tell the adult how they felt. That's what I feel. I feel like I had to tell my grandfather something, and he asked me, he said, why did you never tell me. And I had to tell him, well, every time I have an opportunity to talk to you, it's so many people around and so much noise that me and you never had a chance to have a conversation. So maybe that's when she felt like she had enough power to do so. I don't know, but I know for me, when I said what I had to say, I was grown and I felt like it wasn't a disrespect towards the family when I said what I had to say. So I'll just say maybe she just felt like she was old enough to do it.
That's beautiful. I hope, listen, I am really enjoying this conversation because I'm learning a lot. And what I'm learning, this like Lexi, I'm sorry. They need to bring Lexi on the show because Lexi has really opened up a dynamic and a dialogue. She has really put a dialogue in front of us for Black people to be able to talk a little bit deeper about family dynamics. Love her, hate her, disagree with her delivery. She has put the shit slap dab right in front of us. And we are going to take full advantage of it and talk about it because I feel like what we're doing tonight is we're giving each other the opportunity to see things from our view, from our angle. And maybe I don't understand you or you don't understand me. And it gives me an opportunity just to pause, all of us in the chat on the panel, and say, well, damn, I never thought about it like that. I guess you really can't measure hurt and pain. And like Terrell said, because this is where she feels comfortable. So Amanda, was it Samantha or Amanda? I hope that I hope that helps Terrell's explanation. And then I'm gonna do one more. Actually, let me go to Gen X. Welcome to the stage. And then I'm gonna go for made for y'all got these long ass names, but you know who I'm talking. You up next at the Gen X. Gen X, what are your thoughts?
For me, because this is very similar, very, very similar to what I've experienced and my daughter has experienced, even with the dad. What I would say is, I'm gonna be honest with you, Queen. I don't want to see this on TV. I just don't. I feel like, and this is my opinion, as me raising adult daughters now and just looking at adults now, I almost feel like, in my opinion, sometimes our kids, right? They want to go on off, they want to do it on their own, they want to disown you or whatever. And then when maybe things don't fall in place the way that they thought they would fall in place for them, sometimes the parents, the dynamics, in my opinion, become the fall guy. Now, my daughter's father is very similar to what Lexi says Chris did to her. But I don't want to see this on TV because it's too deep. And I think it needs to be kept off of television. I think because I feel like once social media gets involved and once people start commenting and reading those comments, is it going to be better, or are they going to heal, or is it going to add fire to the issue? I think that Lexi has her truth, but I also believe, just from watching the dynamics between my daughter and her father, that sometimes even when they do try to come and approach and try to talk, I don't feel like it right now. And so it's like, well, I'm coming to you. She didn't, my daughter didn't feel like it. He stepped away. Now he done stepped away. Now she want to talk, but now he done put up his wall. So I just feel like there's blame on both sides. And just one last thing is, I think it's interesting with reality TV because I think we step into their reality at a point, and then we go from that point and we share our opinion. But we didn't get to see everything else before that. And although Lexi's feelings are valid, but there's also a whole story there. And I just feel like everyone should be brought to the table. And I just don't see them bringing her on that show, knowing that their relationship was that bad that she would do now what she's doing. And I think that, in my opinion, I just feel like she said, okay, this is my moment. I'm going to put them on blast. And she's grown. And at some point, even as grown folk, when we can't get our parents to act the way that we want them to, we have to move on. We have to deal with that pain. We have to put them in a certain position, in a certain place. But I just feel like at some point she's got to deal with that. And she may not get what she's wanting when she wants it. But there's some part of her that has to look at her kids and say, okay, look, I can't pass this down to my kids. I'm definitely not putting all ownership on Lexi, but I'm just saying, from a perspective of seeing her, I would love to not see her continue to hurt and be so disappointed and hurt by this and figure out, like you were saying before about the counselor or therapist, like there's healing and addressing it from a healing space. But I'm not discounting her, but I think that there's more, and I don't want to see it. That's just
May from Guyana, you're up next. Did I say it correctly?
Oh, that's me, boo.
Yeah, that's you, boo boo.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to walk away. I'm taking care of my dog at the same time. I came here to say, I'm praying for Lexi. The baby girl has a lot going on, and I can understand where she is. But after 30 years, I'm gonna need her to figure something out because she's moving a little weird. You're saying things, you're contradicting yourself, you're not doing things properly and in order, and it's weird. I don't know how that is supposed to be a good thing to get your family to talk to you or be there for you, but she literally just put herself on the outside of, I want to say, 6 to 7 people, because it's the parents, kids, all that. She literally just put herself on the outs of everybody. And they literally were all at the table like, hey, like, no, you did this, we reacted this way. And she didn't want to hear anybody's side. She only wanted to put her side out. She only wanted to give her experience, but she did not want to listen to anybody else. So where does that put everybody? In a weird, awkward place of, yeah, we want you here, but now we don't want you here because you're acting real weird. And all of us have the same perspective. You only have one perspective, and you did not try to hear ours or individually hear ours. And now you being weird at the dinner table after you done cleaned your plate. I don't get that. To me, something is not right. I've heard many perspectives. She's been in counseling for 14 years. I have never had counseling in my life, and I'm dealing with 5 children, and I deal with that every day. She only maybe got 1 or 2, and she still got to deal with herself and the man she decided to be with. She got so many other things to worry about than to be on the internet trashing the family that tried to be there for her. I don't get it. I'm gonna need her to get some more help.
That's
I'm gonna
fair.
need her. I'm gonna need her to find a different therapist, somebody that is intensive, and I'm gonna need her mama to get out her ear, because only your mother can guide you properly if that's all you have. If that's all you have, your mother guides you, and her mother was in that interview sitting on the back end. Why? As a 30-something-year-old woman with children and a husband, why is your mother sitting there? I'm gonna need you to stand on your own. She cannot stand on her own. She never wanted to, and she never will if she does not want to. It's
All
a
right.
lot of young. I just want to say one thing. It's a lot of young ladies out here that want somebody on their shoulder to help them. I have been one of them at some point in my life, and I've realized over time, ain't nobody gonna help me unless I help myself. I have to make decisions on my own. If everybody decides to drop off the face of the earth tomorrow, if everybody died in a plane crash randomly, God forbid, it's on me to figure out me or how I'm gonna move on the rest of my life. And she has not done that no time in her life. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate your thoughts and your wisdom shared. Thank you so much, Queen.
A chit chat, I listen to you all the time. You're my auntie in
No,
my heart.
Queen
So,
Sheba. I'm not chit chat.
I'm sorry. Queen
Yeah,
Sheba, yes, I get you guys mixed up.
I
I'm so
know
sorry.
people. That's okay. That's okay.
Y'all two are amazing. I'm just gonna say, Queen Sheba,
We
your
love you.
voice
I'll
is
take it.
very distinctive, and hers is very distinctive, and y'all sound alike, and it's weird. But I'm sorry.
Well, that's
But
okay, yeah,
I,
that's okay, good. I might let you come back if you get it right next time.
I will. I will. I promise.
All right.
But I
Thank you.
appreciate you. I probably was watching her earlier. That's probably why. But I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. You've been doing great, and everybody loves you. Keep it up.
All right. Thank you. We love you, and you have a good night.
You too.
All right, Lynette, let me hear your thoughts, and then we're going to go to Journey to Jasmine. I'm going to keep rotating my panelists and popping questions out to y'all, okay? Just stand by, everybody. Be patient. Lynette, what are your thoughts?
Hi, good evening, and I'm so glad to be in the palace with the
Yay,
queens
welcome.
from one queen to another. I'm just gonna speak as a stepmother. That I raised my stepdaughter. So there's a lot of things with Lexi that I can kind of see. And how I was with my daughter. And I don't even call her my stepdaughter. So she's my daughter. I've raised her since she was 4 years old. Um, but I had to be the buffer between, you know, whatever it was with her dad and the mom. I just tried to make sure I always gave her dad another perspective. We never ever bashed her mom, never said anything negative in front of her mom. So I could recall when she turned 18, because she's an adult now, she's near 30. When she was 18 and she graduated from high school, her mother wanted to come in now take over after, of course, I did all the work and her father did all the work. And her father was very upset and he didn't even want to have anything to do with her. Like he cut her off. And I kept telling him, I mean, if she had to do it all over again, she needs to see the dynamic of her mom. She doesn't know the history or the story of her mom and why we took her from her mom. She didn't know her mother wasn't stable, and this is something she had to go through and she had to see. But he would not speak to her. For the 2 years she went with her mom, it was a mess. I mean, it didn't last. Like within 7 months, her, living with her mom, she was going from pillar to post. And for almost another year and a half, I begged him to let her come home. But he was so adamant. He felt like she was ungrateful because we raised her. But I had to remind him she didn't know that other parent. And me and you we couldn't step in her shoes because I had my mom. He was raised with his mom. I said, and I was just a bonus mom. I never stepped in to take her place of her mom. And so now as an adult, she made a connection back with her mom. But I've always encouraged her to pray over her mom, to have conversations with her mom. And if she acts as if she's hesitant, I remind her that she's an adult and she can have a respectful conversation with her mom about what she feels and her feelings. So throughout the years, they try to have that relationship, but it wasn't there. I don't know, but I always ask if she comes around Mother's Day. I'm like, "Did you call your mom?" She's like, "No," But I always try to keep her encouraged because I told her, and she was in therapy, but I also make her aware that I don't want her to have no animosity ever in her heart because I don't want her to take that into her kids, into her new family because she was raised with love. She had a mother and a father even though she didn't have a biological mother. But I always keep explaining to her, you make sure you forgive. You have to forgive, no matter whether you speak to her or not. I don't want you to ever hold that in your heart. So I say that to say, I just think Lexi, even though the mother didn't say it, but she kind of hinted at it. She said Lexi had to see if the grass was greener on the other side. Now she saw. So I think Lexi probably don't feel like she belongs with the Fletcher because her siblings have both parents. And even with her mom and having two kids, they have their parents at her mom's house. And I just think she feels like she's this outsider looking in between two homes. So until they could get her into an extensive therapy, somebody that can help her realize because of all this blendedness in her family didn't take away from the love that they could have had for her. So I think it's a lot of deep rooted issues.
Yep.
Wanted to say that. Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you for coming up. No, thank you. Real quick, I want to highlight a couple of things. Let me go back and find it real quick. I think it was from somebody named Tiffany. Zane, I see you. As soon as you connect. Journey to Jasmine, you're up next. Was that Lynette that just talked? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Lynette.
Mhm.
Okay, Journey to Jasmine. But let me put something out there because Tiffany. Let me find her comment. Let me go to Tiffany. And y'all, we're going to cover a lot of y'all's comments. The panelists, I'm not going to answer them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to filter out, work with me, your comments and your questions to the panelists, and they're going to talk through them one by one. So give me Tiffany. Here it is. Not that one. You had another one, Tiffany. Give me 1 second. Oh, here we go. So Tiffany said, "Oh my goodness, this is so triggering. People are so quick to judge Lexi and give Chris all the damn grace. Listen, I'm
Speak.
glad I'm glad you say that. But here's why it's important, Tiffany, for you to stay and not run, because there needs to be a balance and an elevation to the conversation. Also, to those of you in the chat that may be triggered, this is why you're so important. Because you can come in and bring a different perspective, whether you come up on the panel or whether you giving your thoughts in the chat. So when it becomes triggering, I encourage everybody to work through being uncomfortable and push through because somebody needs your viewpoint. So I just wanted to call that out really quick. Journey to Jasmine, you got the floor. Simone Wealthy, you're up next.
Good evening, Queen Shiba. Thank you so much for letting me up.
Absolutely.
I took a few notes. This is actually very triggering. In fact, I saw that you went live,
What
and I was
part? What
like,
part is triggering?
the
Be
whole.
very
Well,
specific.
okay, I can't say the whole thing. The dog piling on Lexi, and I just had a feeling that a lot of people in your comments and even panel were going to be doing that. So I didn't even want to tune into the live. I had been watching Vampire in Brooklyn, but something was like, no, Jazz,
Yeah, get out
girl,
of
that's my jam.
here.
Max Julian, honey. But anyway, um, girl. But just like you said, another perspective needs to be brought forth so maybe someone else can be enlightened. You know, so I will say this. I will start off by saying my dynamic wasn't like this. My parents are married, still married to this day. But me and my mom had a rift because she had her own unhealed trauma. And take away the surface of things, and at the root of it, that's exactly what this is: the perpetuation of unhealed trauma, because the parent is sowing a seed and then getting mad when they see the fruit of that seed grow. So that's how I'm about to preface this, but I want to pivot and say that I do see a lot of people saying that parenting didn't come with a book or a manual, and they also say that they tried their best.
Do you feel like that's an excuse that they're
It's
leaning
an
on?
excuse. It's excuse,
Okay.
and it is, because what I was going to say to that is that does not absolve you from the responsibility of the toxic seeds that you sowed in that child's life, and then getting mad at them because their behavior is a reflection of the seeds that you sowed. I have a friend that yells at her daughters all the time, and I'm like, this gonna go one or two ways. They're gonna be complete introverts and people pleasers and let people walk all over them, or they're gonna be just like you and yelling and screaming. She's another nail that just can't have a regular toned conversation, just on 10 for every conversation. We don't need all that. And that's just an example. And I see a lot of, well, she just shouldn't have been so that's still your parents. What if they die? First of all, the only truism in life is death. So let's not act like we don't know that everybody's gonna die. The child could die. So then what does that then make it so, oh well, we should try to make things right with the child? No, y'all never think about it in reverse. And that's kind of my issue. It's like my
Okay,
whole
state your issue so that
uh
they
my
can
whole thing
understand and follow you.
yes, my whole thing is that patriarchy and anti-blackness is so rooted in our community that y'all cannot see that you don't even have the capacity to have compassion for this young black woman. You know, how dare she have feelings about the fact that this woman came in and took her father, per the conversation that her mother said. I'm not saying whether or not it's true or false. I'm just going off the information that was presented. So based on the information that was presented, this woman came in and took her father from her home, whether it by his own doing or whatever. Everybody plays a part in that. However, looking from her standpoint, she no longer has her father. And your son that you came in the relationship with, plus the children that y'all made, get to have this man all the time. And then to bring it back around to the whole car situation, because again, I had a similar situation in my family. I'm the oldest and I'm the only girl. I thought I should have had a car in high school. Well, my parents didn't have it like that when I was in high school, but they did have it like that for my brothers. So they got cars in high school, and I bought my first car when I was in college. I did not let that thing go for years until my dad said to me, he was like, "We just didn't have it like that, baby girl." That's all I needed. That's no more brushing my feelings off. Like what I'm saying is not valid. Just explain it. And I think a lot of times parents have too much pride to just say, I ain't have it like that. What does that cost you to put your pride away and just have a conversation like this is a human to human conversation? Stop looking at your child as if they're your subordinate. Yes, she's 30
Oh,
something years old. And I'm just saying, like, it all reverts back to slavery to me. Uh, Women, children, subordinates, non-humans. That's just really how people see them, and it stems goes right into adulthood too.
look, real quick before you wrap up, somebody
Mhm.
let me pull it up. I want to give her credit for her comment. Let me find it. Hold on, hold on. It was a good one. And I just, Tennessee girl said they treat Lexi like a side baby. I
So
agree.
do.
I agree. They treat Lexi. Okay, do you, real quick, Journey,
Can I make
because
a point,
we gotta
Queen?
move
Can
on.
I
Go
got you.
ahead.
I got you. I promise. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
use the dinner scene to make my point. Go
Okay.
back and watch that dinner scene. They were berating Chris about him being in jail. Lexi said because by her own admission, she said I don't be around him like that. So she said, "Hold on." This was her exact words. Hold up, flag on the play. Who went to jail? And Nell said, "Shut the hell up, Lexi." That's how the whole thing started. Then they went into the whole diatribe about. She said, "If I could get back the money that I have loaned to y'all, I would be wealthy." And then she went to the whole thing about I done bought y'all all these fancy cars, and if it wasn't for me, y'all wouldn't have them because y'all dad didn't want me to get them for y'all. And she was like, "Well, what about me? You never bought me a car." And that's what started that conversation, not Lexi. If they knew that if that was really a trigger for her, she brought that up every time they came around, like they said she did, then why would they start it? They started that conversation. Then hold on, let me bring it around town. Not only that, cousin Kiki was sitting on edge. She was ready to start vipering that girl the whole time. She was just giving her looks. Talking, you're reckless. That's why. Like just jumping in. Her and the other sister. You could tell they set that girl up. They was making her the scapegoat. When I say they read her rights the entire time, I see why she got up and left the way she did. Like, really go back and look at that scene. They were so vile and nasty. And then cousin Kiki, girl, you a whole cousin. And you had the nerve to say, oh, she comes here and she sees the things that we have and she thinks that she should have them too. That's not fair. Ma'am, that's
You
her dad. How dare you?
come on, but do you under but she's been treated like a that goes back to
That's
Tennessee
my
girl
point.
comment. It has, in y'all's opinion, come on, Chad, let's keep it real, panelists. As you think about your answer that I'm going to throw at you, Simone Wealthy, you're up next, and then Diego. Has Lexi been treated like a side baby?
Yep.
All right. Journey, thank you. You can
Thank you,
feel free to
Queen.
stay up because I got more. I'm going to throw more at y'all. All
All right,
right.
I'm
Simone
being.
Wealthy, welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. I got in late, so I was doing a lot of running around this afternoon, so I didn't hear the first hour. So someone may have addressed this, but I haven't heard too many people mention Chris at all. I think Chris is 100% to blame for a lot of Lexi's feelings. Him being quiet and reserved all the time. So many people say that, he was stoic. He's a good man, he wears the nice suits. Chris ain't shit. Chris is a piece of shit. Chris is the reason why Lexi is acting out right now. Her feelings are extremely hurt. And I'm sick of everyone trying to put it on Nell or on her. Lexi is acting out because she feels that her feelings matter. My son is a Lexi. he has to walk around this earth knowing that his father's out living, breathing, doing well, and could give a shit because of his own actions. I've tried, he's tried. It does not work when you're working with someone who doesn't want to work with you. Chris, I mean, he is so full of it now that I'm looking back at everything that he's done. This girl sat up there on that interview, and from what I'm seeing, let's take the cars, let's take the money, let's take all of that out of it. When it comes to her feeling, she's feeling worthless. She's feeling like she wanted to take herself out of here. She lets her father know, and all he has to say is, I didn't know. And then we see him on TV crying over his other son who said the same thing, basically, give or take.
Wow.
It doesn't add up. I'm sick of hearing these people talk about Lexi this, Lexi this. Lexi, yes, I do believe she does need to get a new therapist and really get someone that can really, really help her, and so that she can get this out of her system and move on with her life and be a good and great mother for her children and a wife. But this is all on Chris. This is not Nell. This is Chris. That her mother, from what I could see, it didn't appear like she was trying to over exaggerate or anything. To me, it feels like it was the truth. And anytime Chris should say anything, he's silent. He is silent. That tells you everything. He does that with his children. She is treated like the outside child because she was his first child, if I'm correct. And then he went on to have children with Nell. She doesn't live in that household full time. So when she comes around and has to deal with the Nell telling her to shut the hell up out of nowhere, she's just asking a question because obviously she hasn't been around. She didn't know the young man had been in jail. So it's like, what do you expect? Now she's spilling, and she's rat-a-tat-tatting on all y'all asses because this is her time. She is making you embarrassed. She's spilling it all because this is how you made her feel. This is how she's felt all of this time. She's felt this way. She couldn't do nothing with it. She could just complain to her mom and maybe other friends or family. But now you get to feel how she's been feeling all her life because y'all sitting up there embarrassed now. Chris looking like a fool, and Nell, I don't got nothing to say about Nell. I mean, I liked him, for before all of this, but this is all on Chris. Chris ain't shit. He's sitting around there in them $2,000 suits and dancing all over TikTok, and you got a daughter in Nashville who's an hour or two away from you, and you can't take your raggedy ass up there and go see about her and spend some time with her and try to open up your counseling raggedy ass Martell and all these other people, but you can't take your ass up to Nashville and go see about, you can't go up there and see about your daughter, set up some counseling for your daughter and you to maybe get back on track to fix this thing before it's too late. That's all on him. Nell does what she does because he allows it. She wouldn't do with that, her mouth and all that, especially telling her to shut the hell up, if he wouldn't put his foot on her ass about that. Not literally, but check her about that. How dare you tell her to shut the hell up, a grown ass person? And she didn't know anything. But I mean, again, I put all of it on him, 100% on. She is going crazy. I'm not going crazy, but she's spilling it all now because she has the perfect platform to do so. And I hope she does it again. I hope she does tell more of they shit because he's full of shit. Chris is he is and now knowing that he left Nell and went to go live with another woman with the whole family, he's trash. He's trash. Who's managed to, get a little money, get a little real estate company, get a little cleaning company, but he's trash because he's allowed this to happen with his daughter. He's allowed this to happen with her.
Damn.
But you have to live with. I have to live with that. I'm trying to get my son in counseling. He's younger than Lexi, but knowing you have a parent out there who is not even attempting to try and resolve issues and try to be, part of your, they want to do it on their terms, their terms, which is bullshit. Not caring about your feelings and how you're looking at things, but just, what makes them feel comfortable. He's doing what makes him feel comfortable. And this is what he gets, but he's crying over that baby boy. But you've got a
Wow.
grown daughter that you ain't doing shit for.
Wow.
Listen, Chris, you earned this one. Hold on. I'm sorry, Chris. Listen, you earn every bit of this one. Give me 1 second. Thank you, Simone. I think you put the smack down like WWE. Diego, what are your thoughts? Review
Can you hear
hour.
me?
Listen, y'all on fire tonight. I ain't gonna stop you, baby. Go ahead.
You can hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good, okay, because I switched my headset, but I mean, how could I say anything after her? My
Okay.
goodness, she just said everything that I would have wanted to say. 'Cause, I mean, I agree with her 100%. Everything she said, I agree with her. On top of that, I guess I could say what kind of got me to get up here anyway, because I said I wasn't gonna get up here because this is too much for me. But for some people to sit here and um, basically compare their traumas to what she's going through and how she should react based off of how they have come up into this world, it's kind of offensive to me personally, I think, because um, I kind of had a situation like her, you know what I'm saying? But except every time I got to see my father, it was more of a, your mother wasn't my girlfriend type of conversation, you know what I'm saying? It was never, I never got to learn how to be a young man growing up, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
From my father. Um, but I also grew up, you know what I'm saying, with a strong black woman. My grandmother raised me. You know what I'm saying? My mother wasn't always around, but where she's around now because, you know what I'm saying, she got her life together, but she was, on drugs when she was younger. So my grandma had to raise me and my little brother, you know what I'm saying? But with all that, on top of other shit that I went through, I was bullied, all kinds of shit. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't taught how to fight. I had to learn myself. You know what I'm saying? Um, excuse me, this is a little bit triggering. But with all that said, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to be alive. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
really didn't. It went through a lot, but I'm still alive. I'm 40 years old. You know what I'm saying? There's people that have actually killed themselves because they couldn't handle the shit that they going through. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
And here I am, in a young gay black man. You know what I'm saying? In a world that don't even like you. You know what I'm saying? So it's that just I just had to say that it's just a little bit disheartening to hear people talk like that. But I'm good. That's
Listen,
all.
y'all, it's your first time in the palace. Let me just go up a little bit and I'm gonna buy you some time. I got you, baby. That's what we do. We got each other's back. Because when the women are holding it down in the palace when we're doing that deep work, you guys, you do a really good job of guarding the gate. So let me guard the gate for you real quick. For those of you that are new to the palace, this is what we do. We cover Love and Marriage Huntsville. We cover everything else. We with the shits when it comes to all things entertainment, but we also about that real work, those deep evolving conversations that should have happened a long time ago. And when I say a long time ago, I'm talking about mama's generation, grandma generation. It ain't nothing that we don't talk about in the palace. Now, a lot of times we do it behind the wall. We break it down, then we build it back up, then we have a little bit of fun. We get into books, we get into our bag, we get into your business. If you suffering, we finna pray, we finna do what we need to do. We from all walks of life, black, brown, yellow. We didn't have white women behind the wall break down and cry, and we didn't held them, they didn't held us. We didn't have men. We got older women, younger men. younger women, older women, and that's what we have, such a diverse community here, and we love on each other because we know we gonna put that work in. And when I talk about that work, that's the real life conversations where people say, you know what, I done came out the bushes. This was so triggering, or this was so inspiring. I had to come up, and that's the kind of space we're trying to create. And people know that they can do that here. So when you hear people really sharing, that's because that's the kind of work that we are invested in. And Diego, you got the floor.
Nah, but I said what I said. That was just it's just hurtful to hear that. Instead of coming together as a community and maybe wrap your arms around this lady, you know what I'm saying? And just hear her. That's it. You
And
know,
that's
everybody has a story. But that's all I got.
And Lexi, we holding it down for you. But in order to get you there, we got to talk about it, how you can do it better. And that's what strategy is. Sometimes you're not going to hear what you want to hear. Because hold on now, you're getting a little bit too down and dirty. You're getting a little bit too dirty in the trenches. And if the goal is to heal, why are you over there about to exit in the wrong lane? You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. And some people say you should talk to Lexi. That's up to her, not up to me. That's not even something that I would want to encourage. She would have to come to me because it's so serious. And I think she did a good job with the guy that she interviewed with. You get what I'm saying? So thank you, Diego, for coming up and talking. The review hour, and then I'm going to spin the block. I'm trying to get to those that have not talked. So the review hour, welcome. What are your thoughts?
Hey, yeah, I was sitting here listening to everyone, and of course, I do know, not personally as a child, but as a parent, and I do know that I think Chris and Lex's mother, his ex-wife, are the cause for what she's going through. Not just Chris and the mother, because Lex, in my opinion, is responding to the story that has been put before her about her life, all the way to when he left, when she was just a little baby. And I think that whatever her mom has said, whatever Chris has not made clear, because first of all, they were both young, maybe in their early 20s, when he got married and had a child. They weren't ready. Chris himself said he was from the country. So I'm sure somebody told him, you got to marry that girl. She's pregnant. You got to marry her. So in my opinion, he wasn't ready to begin with because he's always wanted to be out there. And so when he left, she was left with this, I guess, this story that her mom told her, or even maybe she even, imagined this story herself. I don't know. But she feels that Nell came and broke the family up. I don't know that part of it either, until you hear both sides of the story. But I believe that if Chris and her mother got together as a one unit right now and sit down with her, I think that would be appreciated by her. I just don't think that she has heard everything, the truth of what and how it was back then when her mom and Chris were together. Now, I can't explain everything from that point, but I think from me listening to her, she holds on to a lot from that time when Chris and her mom separated and divorced. And she was too young to even know anything about it, but she is angry about it. So
Okay, let
somebody
me
had
ask
to
you
tell
this.
her.
Can a kid, let's take the dynamic, because I know a lot of people say she was too young. She was 3, she was 5. Does that negate the fact that she grew up to be a young woman that did not have her father's love? And I think that's the point that some of the people are windmilling for Lexi in the chat, saying, wait a minute, yes, 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 that's true. But are we going to overlook her by way of a technicality, a numerical technicality? Yeah, she may not have known the story and her mom have filled in the gaps, but does that negate the fact that she's deeply hurt, that from her perspective as a woman, when she started to grow, teenager, Daddy, you wasn't loving on me.
No, it doesn't. But looking at Lex has been angry for a long time. So let me ask this question. If
Okay.
Chris come to her right now, do you think that Lex would be receptive of that?
I tell you what, let's get tricky with it. Stacy, do you think Lexi would be receptive if her father came to her right now? Oh, Stacy dropped down. Let me give it to Valerie. Valerie.
No, and I agree with what she said. I said something similar earlier. And the point to that, the reason why is because she's trying to fix something, or she wants someone to fix something that can't be fixed. The only thing that she can do, and I'm not negating any of her feelings or anything, but um, she can't move forward and live a healthy life if she does not come to terms with her past being a bad past, and then trying to figure out, how do I have a better life going forward? That's really the only option that she has. She can't make Chris be a better dad. She can't do that. She doesn't have that power and control. She can only control herself. And I don't think that she's going to um, handle it the right way if he does come to her, because she's trying to change the narrative and she doesn't have the power to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we know she's trying to change the narrative? How do we know that?
Because of the
How
fact
do
that she
we?
came on the air and she aired out all of the things that she had a problem with. And I'm not negating her problems. I agree that, she has a right to say how she feels, but the stuff that she was talking about was some of the stuff that happened. Well, I don't even know how she would know that other than her mother telling her that. And she's bringing them up today. She's not dealing with her today. And so if you're not dealing with your today, he can't fix the past. He messed up. He messed up as a dad. And there's nothing that he can go back and fix at that point. She has to say, I don't like the way my dad did me. I feel like they treat me like this, but this is what I want to happen. And I would like for my dad to do this, 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 and this. But she doesn't even have a plan of what she really wants. She's willing to cut him off right now. So if she's trying to cut him off, then she's not trying to work on it. She's not going to forgive him.
Yes.
Let me real quick. Stacy, it's not your turn, but I want you to get in and then I'm still going to come back to you. Do you feel like the review hours question was, do you feel like if Chris was to pick up the phone, drive or even drive to Tennessee to try to make it right with Lexi, do you think she would be open, Stacy?
I 50-50. It all depends on how she feel that day. So if she in a good mood or in a good space, she may. And then if she's not, she probably won't. It all depends on how much wall she have built up for her father.
And let me ask you one more thing, Stacy, and I'm still going to come back to you before I give it back to the review hour and go to the weekends. Should she be open?
Yes, if she wants to heal properly, yes. But
Oh,
if she decide that she don't want that, then she's not.
oh, this is a tough one. Okay.
What
Wow.
about the
The
effort
reason
of
why I say
Chris?
that is, the reason why I say that is because, and this is something that we have not thought about, because when I was in therapy, I was proposed this question. What if Lexis never get what she want for Chris? Because he just not capable of giving her what she needs. We have
I'm
not
glad you
thought
said
about his
that.
trauma. We have never thought about his trauma, what he went through as a child.
Thank you.
Well, I'm
But
glad you
isn't he a
said it.
counselor? Isn't he
Man,
and Manel counselors? So we gotta stop caping for Chris. Chris
no,
and Nell have said on the show that they
no,
counsel couples, they counsel people. So he has the techniques. He has that. He knows what he needs to do. If he's not putting forth effort in trying to do that, this is why she's acting that way. He's
I'm gonna
not
keep it
putting
hot with
forth
you,
any
Simone.
effort.
I'm gonna keep it hot with you. I think that people just come to them because they've been married for a
Yeah, I
long
don't
time.
think
I
that.
don't think
that's
they're
what I'm
trained.
saying. I think they bootleg.
I think they're bootleg in the way, like, no shade, because I'm a PK, and but I know my dad went to school for this as well. But a lot of preachers, they're quote unquote counselors. They could barely read past daggone John 1. You know what I mean? Like, they're only default
Right.
counselors.
Hey,
Like,
listen, that's hilarious. Next time I feel like somebody bullshit me or capping, I'm gonna be like John 1. That means John 1. You capping
Did she
John
call the pastor illiterate?
Well,
I got a story in real life, but anyway, I know in the literate past.
I would just
I
start
ain't
saying
fooling with
John one,
y'all.
but let me let the review hour finish so I can go to the weekends and Stacy. Review hour, you want to go ahead and wrap it up?
Yes, and I agree with everyone on here. Of course, I'm not saying that it's all, it's all on Lex. I'm just putting out there, okay, if she's angry, she's hurt, and her feelings are valid. But if her dad came to her right now, I don't think that she would be receptive. And if that's the case, then is that fair to her dad? What we don't know this. Maybe he has gone to her on several occasions. Maybe that's something that she just did not make us aware of because she's so angry about what has happened between her and her father. And
I think she
and
has a right to be angry. And I think, oh, this is such a good one. Y'all, I'm torn. I'm not torn. I understand everybody's point except Chris's.
He hasn't made any effort. He won't even defend and ask Martell to respect his wife. He puts at this brother sister bull crap as that's why it's okay for him to holler at his own wife. So you can't make me believe he has tried everything he can do to try to bridge a gap between him and Lexi. He can call her on the phone, she can hang up. He can drive the hour or whatever to Nashville to try and check on her, to try and get in her face, to try to make something happen. He can set up some appointments with some therapists for parent child or, adult child. He can do that. That's effort. He ain't doing any of that. He's on TikTok.
Simone, on point.
I have a question.
Who? Okay.
I'm sorry, this is Valerie because she just said something and something just popped into my head. Okay, so when Lexi was talking, a lot of her anger was towards Nell. So she wants to bridge the gap between her and her dad. But bridging the gap between her and her dad, where does that place her and Nell if Nell is her problem as well? So my question would be, how would they go about mending that? Because Chris and Nell are one. So is she just trying to mend with her dad? Or is she just trying to have you see what I'm saying? Because if she doesn't fix it with Nell, there's still going to be a problem there.
Wow. It starts with Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is
But do you think that maybe her and Nell
got
may
some
have an
feedback now.
opportunity to have a relationship and maybe go to some counseling together?
I want to come back to that.
Okay.
Valerie, that's a really good question. I want to end on that one. Can you stay? I want to come back.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. The weekends with, and I can't see the rest of the name. You're up.
Okay. So I will say, looking at Lexi's situation, I'm going to speak from a bit of personal experience. So my parents were in the same exact situation. My dad started dating a lady in 1981. My parents did not divorce until 1988. My sister was born in like 83. So because she was there and I knew that she was the cause of the breakup of the relationship, I resented her. And for a long time, I always fantasized about what the relationship with my father would have been had she not come into the picture. And I blamed her instead of holding him responsible for his actions. Then around 32, 33, I had some counseling. And then I began to realize that some of the things that my parents went through, they were 23, 24, 25. And the way I looked at something in my 30s was different than the way they may have looked at it in their 20s. It's different than how I look at it in my 40s. And I think part of the problem that Lexi is having is she's holding on and she's dealing with the relationship that is truly none of her business. Whatever went on between her parents and Nell, that's none of her business. She doesn't have the right to judge Nell because of the fact that it turned out the way that it turned out. Her main concern should be how she's dealing with the relationship with her father. And that is either you not romanticize what you think it should have been and you deal with what it is, or you make that decision that you're going to let it go. But letting it go is not coming online and having all of these negative things to say about the two of them. And whether she realizes it or not, she's only hurting herself. And again, I understand the pain that she's going through. I could not even mention my father's name or a relationship with my father without even having, like, without crying or coming to tears, like in a conversation. But again, that did not hurt him. He's still living his life with my stepmother, but it hurt me because I'm holding on to, well, this happened to me in my childhood. Had my father been there, it may have been different. And I think for her own self-healing, she has to move past that. And also, she has to be willing to have that conversation that, okay, I don't know how old Chris and Nell were whenever this took place, but people handle situations differently when they're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. And also, she has to realize that even if he's not giving her the response that she expects, it is also hard for adults, whether they're counselors or they've had counseling or they're healed. It is very hard for them to admit, you know what, I was wrong. I didn't handle that in the right way. And sometimes you have to approach a situation with saying, I understand that you may have been in this place at that age and that you don't see how your actions impacted me, but I can forgive you for that and move forward. Sometimes it's not about making them apologize to you, but it's about understanding where they're at and coming to a common ground so everybody can move forward, not just for herself, but but also for like her kids and for him, because whether she realizes it or not, when you harbor that much animosity that she can get online and disparage them and say all of that negative stuff, whether she realizes it or not, she's hurting herself. She's hurting her kids. There are things that she's displaying to her children that's not healthy as well.
Girl, that was great. What do y'all think, panel? Can you relate to what the weekends is sharing?
I'm gonna have to say y'all exhausting. Y'all exhausting. That's what I'm gonna have to say. I was trying to talk.
Okay, hold on now, Journey to Jasmine. You're gonna have to push through these tough moments where you're being triggered.
Okay. Okay.
We holding space for you.
All right, that's fine.
But I think if you come
So
from it from a place as opposed to y'all are exhausting,
you're
how
right.
about have y'all considered this?
Have y'all considered this?
that? Yeah, go
Why
ahead.
why does Lexi, as the child of the parents, mind you, she is 32, 33 probably at this, well, 32 in the interview, so she's 32. Why does she need to be the bigger person beyond an adult man who is probably like what 56 and his adult wife who is 50 something as well? They're all adults in this situation, but given the fact that they've lived longer and we're supposed to have all these reverence for elders. In the words of Ranting with Ricardo, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with her. Elder be damned. Because just because you're an elder does not mean that you know everything, that you're just the end all be all. Why does she need to be the bigger person? Why does she need to be the one who rallies the troops and whatnot? That is Chris's job. And on top of that, if Nell came into that girl's life and was wreaking havoc, mind you, it wasn't necessarily to her as a child, but it affected her life. It affected her father being a staple in her life. I don't know why everybody's missing that part and wants her to be the bigger person and she shouldn't have lashed out in this, that, and the third. They have a whole platform where they can just make her look bad. She literally was the bad person, even though that he said F off, even though her little sister called her a bitch, even though the cousin had so much vitriol, looked like she actually said she could have came around the table and smacked her. So even though all that happened, Lexi should be the bigger person. She shouldn't have came on the internet and said anything about any way she felt and shouldn't have spoke on how her parents marriage is all. Are y'all kidding me?
If I
Well,
make
with much
Hold on.
respect, I don't think it's because I don't want to trigger you, but with much respect, I think what it is it's half opinions in response to half stories.
Mhm.
So I love this discussion because there's so many layers, there's so many different directions of opinions that can be given, and that's not to say, oh, Lexi is horrible or Nell is horrible. I mean, or even Chris, because there's also a level of it to where there may be the wrong expectations that Lexi maybe having of Chris. Which I'm not saying if all she's saying is for him to be there for her and he's not there. No, I'm not saying that's it. But what she may be requesting of him in her mind as being there may not be necessarily reasonable. Like in her mind, she may be asking him, to do, outrageous stuff for her to feel like, oh, you're here for me, when he may be doing the necessary things that a true parent does to show their child that they're there for them and they care for them. The other question I wanted to pose or I wanted to say was like, what portion of this, because in some of these scenarios, what portion of this could this be a spoiled child? Because we've all seen scenarios where you done fed the damn kid all day, and darn if this kid won't walk into your mama's house and say they starving because they ain't ate all day. And you know darn well this kid done been eating all day, done had snacks and 17 meals, but will still walk up to another adult and say, I'm starving, I haven't eaten all day. So a lot of there's this whole generational thing where, and I'm not saying that the girl is lying because we don't know, but there is that part where, she could just be spoiled and lashing out.
And if I may interject, one of the things is the reason why I feel like, not saying Lexi has to be the bigger person, but she's the one hurting. And sometimes it's not about the other person. It's like swallowing poison and expecting them to die. You do it for your own healing. You do it to heal yourself. You let it go so that you're able to move forward in life, because the last thing she wants is to have a sense of bitterness that she's portraying to her own children, because she has this bitterness to her father and her stepmother. And so sometimes it's like being able to go to a person and having a conversation, even if you know that you have no blame in the situation. I had no blame in the situation. I had no blame when my stepmother would do things like, because I was vocal about the fact that I would not respect her because she was my dad's side chick, she would do things for my sister and not do things for me. So I knew that as an adult, because I harbored the anger, I needed to forgive so that I could heal myself. It wasn't about her. I don't have a heaven or a hell to put her in. But it was about me being okay with moving forward in my life so that I was not harboring that anger. And for Lexi, because she has pain and anger that's demonstrated in what she had to say online, she needs to do it for herself,
All
for
excellent points.
nobody else.
I gotta
So
go to Stacy, y'all. I
okay.
gotta
She
go to
answered the
Stacy. She's been
interviewer's
waiting.
questions.
Let me hold on. Let me let Stacy get in because she's been waiting so patiently. Stacy, you got the floor.
No, I'm enjoying the conversation. I had said what I
Are you
said.
sure?
Yeah, because the only thing I just really want people to be, I can relate on both sides. I can relate on my father not being there with at least most people had a stepmother to go to. We never was allowed to go, okay? Because it was my father never came to us, okay? So I can understand that. But what I had to learn was, and you got to think about, I had to understand how my father grew up. My father did not grow up with a mother and a father in a household together. My mother did. She was raised with both parents. My father didn't. So when I look at how he was raised and what we wanted from him, he couldn't give it to us because he didn't know how to give it to us. So sometimes we long for things from people that just can't not give us what we need. And I had to realize that and accept that as an adult. And I got married later on in life. I was almost 50 when I got married. So I had to really, I just felt like marriage was not in the queue for me because I looked at my parents and how things were. My father was horrible, okay? And my mother made up so many excuses until one day I said, why you keep making excuses for him? He's this, he that. And when she realized I knew what was going on, she stopped. So that's what I'm saying. I understand where Lexi's coming from. I've been there, done that. But also, and I agree with the other young lady saying, as a person that's trying to heal, it wasn't so much of him, it was me, so that I can move on in life, so that I can have a better relationship with my children, and then, and with their father. So how we can co-parent.
I have a question for you. This is Valerie. When you said your mom was like making up excuses for your dad, how old were you?
I was say I could say from, like, I remember the time when she would start making stuff up like at 10. And then I think I probably called her out when I was like maybe 13 years old.
Okay.
Because
Yes.
hello?
Okay, so let's do this real quick. God, this is like y'all, like this is an elevated conversation. I got to give it to y'all.
Can I
Um,
say something really quick?
who is
Just
that?
really more show.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do want to say, like, because how this panel and this whole conversation is taking place, when you go back and you look at that dinner, you have to realize from the children to the parents, there is a lack of maturity within that whole family dynamic. Nobody listens, nobody allows the other person to speak or to be heard. Therefore, it's going to be very difficult for Chris, Lexi, and even Nell, for that matter, to try to actively move forward if you aren't mature within yourself to listen and and be productive and understanding, at least trying to have that empathy for that person's feelings. Lexi's feelings are valid. Little Chris's feelings are valid. Everybody's feelings at that table is valid to a degree. I think Lexi, and I put in the chat, is living in a dream deferred. Whatever she thought her life was supposed to be, and it wasn't, she's still holding on to that. And that's something no, none of us can get our childhood back. So you have to make your adulthood better than your childhood. And that's something that she needs to try to formulate and figure out how to do for herself. I've said it before, Chris is 100% responsible for it, and Nell just needs to be quiet. If Nell is a problem and a
Mhm.
barrier, then they need to make that relation. Chris and Lexi need to make that relationship a solid one, and then interject Nell slowly to build that back up. I mean, hell, cook her a sweet potato pie and let her
Yeah,
ass come over or something. I don't know, but
agreed.
that there's a maturity level within the adults that need to trickle down to the children in order for any of this healing to kind of begin, because nobody listens and everybody's talking over each other.
And when you say listen, listen to hear instead of listening to respond.
Precisely.
Or I'm sorry, what you know how they say you listen to wait your turn to respond? Like, but yeah.
Precisely, like this panel is going forth just the same way.
Okay,
Can I throw
If
something
my
else in there?
stepmama
hold on,
tell
let me,
me
I,
to shut the
let me
hell up, I'm
Taya.
triggered.
Give me 1 second, y'all. Taya.
yeah. Oh, can I throw just one more other thing in there?
Is that Taya?
Uh,
Hold on, let me make sure Taya's good. Taya, did you want to get in
yes,
real
that's
quick?
me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I had said it earlier, or I had commented earlier, um, because some people were saying, oh, no one's holding Chris accountable. But part of, not all of it, but part of the accountability, because there's more that he should take, but part of the accountability, this is also a result of what happens when men have multiple children in multiple households. And I had made the comment where I had referenced Nick Cannon. It's like, oh, he has the money to have all these kids, but there's no way possible that Nick Cannon is spending quality time with all these damn kids in all these separate households. And most of these kids, or some of these kids, there's going to be at least one of these kids that's going to feel like Mariah Carey's kids was his golden kids because they're Mariah Carey's kids.
Mm, good
But
point.
you can't have my stepmother telling me to shut the hell up when she casually asked a question. She wasn't berating little Chris. Lexi wasn't saying anything, being loud. Nell said, shut the hell up. I'm
That's
sorry.
mature. Yeah, immature.
I am triggered. You tell me that, I am triggered.
Thank you,
Period.
Simone. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. It's like everyone's saying, oh, she's still triggered for something from her childhood. This is not just from her childhood. The seed might have been planted in her childhood. However, the actions of her family towards her are still being perpetuated up until this dinner scene. You can
You can
tell the
tell.
way everyone is looking at her, talking to her, talking down to her. There, she is the black sheep. She is the outside child, and
But
that
it
is the
started in
energy.
the childhood, so they're
It started there.
carrying over the disrespect or the lack of acknowledgement
Hmm.
childhood
Exactly.
into adulthood. So she's still having to show up current state as an adult like she did as a child, which is fighting and jockeying for position to be respected, to be included, to be felt, to be heard, just like a part of the pride in the family.
Because
That's all.
the wound is
It's
still
still
reopening
reopened
every
every
time she
time
goes
she goes
around them.
around them.
Say that again.
I, is that my? I said
Go ahead.
okay.
That's Valerie.
The
Valerie has a little bit of
wound
feedback. Go ahead.
the wound is reopened every time she goes around them. So I mean, Nell literally sat there and told her to shut the hell up just for asking the question. Y'all
Okay,
mean like how in what world is that okay?
but let me
And
ask
what did
you this.
Chris do? What did Chris
Ask
do?
you this.
Nothing.
Nothing.
He's a new
Nothing.
male.
Sat there
Listen, we
quiet.
got that.
And
But I gotta go to the super chat, then I'm gonna go to Gigi. My question to you, Journey to Jasmine, don't answer it down. Think about it. How would you move past that as a millennial? Stay tuned. I think that's the point of contention where everybody's agreeing to disagree. They're saying, I hope this is what y'all saying. I think everybody saying, yeah, there is a problem with this family. Yes, Lexi is justified. Yes, she's been hurt. Yes, there's been some disrespect on both sides. But the question is, how does she move forward? How do we move forward? How does the family move forward? And don't nobody really got too much to say about that. Everybody want to stay in their feelings, in my opinion. But let me go to the super chat real quick,
it
and then we're
starts
going
with
to
Chris
Gigi,
Fletcher.
and then I want to come back to you on that. That's why I need you to think on it. Come from your hearts.
I
From your
got you. I
heart.
just wrote it down.
Okay. How do we move forward? What would be your advice as a millennial? All right, here we go.
All right, Palace, the Super Chat Squad is in the building. We appreciate you, baby. The Super Chats are fire. Get in your bag.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Welcome, Michelle Lane, new Palace member. Congratulations. We will see you behind the wall. And for those of you that don't know or you're not up to speed on what we're doing, honey, we are cruising. We are setting sail in the big blue, beautiful ocean. The Palace is cruising. So if you want to get in where you fit in, make sure you join that membership. All of the cruise information is behind the wall, and we're about to have a time, honey. Carnival Cruise ain't gonna owe us nothing when we come back, honey. All right. Tanya Singleton with the 2-piece and a pepper. She says, love you, queen. I love you more. Thank you for that super chat. We appreciate you. Listen, Miss Prince came down and handled her business with a 20-piece, 2 biscuits, and a pepper, honey. She says Lexi was hurt and was furious after she saw the show playback. I agree. She wanted revenge and to hit them where it mattered, and did. And on social media, her plan worked as far as she is concerned. We don't know what Chris has tried. Fair. I have to agree with you. All excellent points. Tanisha Black Butterfly has been a member for 3 months. Congratulations to you. She said, this is on Chris. That's it. That's all. And I said what I said. I have to agree. Snatched by Diego, honey, with a 10-piece, a biscuit, and a strawberry soda. He says, woo, don't you ever put me in my feel goods again, honey. Thanks for the kind words, everyone. By the way, don't think she would be open at this time. She's too hot. He's saying Lexi is coming in hot. He appreciates all of y'all's support from his personal testament and his personal sharing of what it was like for him to go through that. But he's also saying right now is not a good time. In his personal opinion, he does not feel like Lexi would be open if her father came to her and said, let's make this right. Thank you all for your super chats. God bless you. I love you. Let me make sure I ain't miss nobody. All right, Miss Gigi, what are your thoughts? Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, Miss Gigi, we can hear you.
Okay, so this is my first time up here. Thanks for pulling me up. I was in the bushes, and I just want to give a different perspective on all of this. Lexi, me growing up, Lexi was my sister, my older sister. My father had her and was married Prior to marrying my mother had 4 more children. I'm next to Lexi. And all of my life, Lexi's mom fed Lexi stories about my father, what he didn't do for her, what he did do for her. And living it, I saw everything that my father did for her. She lived with us for a part of time, for a part of her life, and then she moved out. They moved away. My father paid child support. She came back for the summers when she was younger. But her mother hated my father to the core. So she put a lot of stories in her head. And when I was watching this interview, it just made me relive that whole situation again. So fast forward, my father stayed in touch with her during high school and everything. He went to her games. He spent time with her. Nothing was ever enough for her. Her mother filled her up with all this. And then at some point in time, I think she was like maybe 16 or 17, where she just pulled away. My father didn't know where she was at. She didn't see my father for 6 years. And then when she did come back, she needed help. And my father was right there for her. But her mother was always in the picture, always still telling her what he did or did not do for her. And this tore my father up. She found the truth. And this is the hard part. She found the truth about what her mother was telling her when her mother died. Her mother's mother finally told her the truth about what everything was going on. To this day, it's 9 years later, her and my father are still in counseling. They have a relationship that they're working on, thank God. But it was coming from seeing how my father was broken down because of the things that he couldn't do with his daughter that he wanted to do because of her mother. So I just wanted to put that out there and let you guys know that it's not only Lexi that had to deal with things, it's the people that she also lived with, me and my siblings, that saw the things and saw how it tore my father down. Like growing up, when she would come to the house, she would be very disrespectful to my mother. But I didn't like that. So me and her got into fights all the time because you're not going to disrespect my mother, period.
Oh, right.
So me and her fought all the time. But it's just a sad situation to hear a lot of this. People saying that Chris didn't do this. Chris is not shit, this and this and that. We don't know what Chris is doing. I'm not taking up for Chris, but I'm just putting my father in those same shoes where he did do everything that he could do. He probably could have did a little more, but he did what he could do with the resources that he had, not knowing where his daughter was. But when he did find out, he immediately got back into her life. She pushed him away a lot because she wanted to please her mom. Now that they've gone through counseling, it was all because I didn't want to make my mom mad. I had to side with my mom. Those kind of things are coming out. Me and her relationship is not good because she never was able to apologize to my mother prior to my mother dying for the things she put my mother through. So our relationship is not good. And at this point, I don't want to deal with her. She needs to just deal with one thing at a time. And I don't feel like I'm a priority for her. My father is the priority for their
Can I ask you
relationship.
a question, Gigi?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And this is real talk. This real talk for everybody on the panel in the chat. Do you feel like, because you said something, and I feel like I've heard it before, not to say it's right or wrong. I've heard it a lot when it comes to Black parents. They did the best they could with what they had and what they knew.
Mhm.
Do you think
Exactly.
that has been an excuse that we need to retire? If you really just keep it real, take your mother out of it, take your dad out of it. When it comes to what you've gone through and what you've needed, even as a woman, maybe some things people will never know. Hell, as a
Mhm.
child that you needed. Do you feel like that's something we got to get away from, or do you feel like it's valid?
In
I
certain
think it depends on
situations,
why
it's
we're
valid.
saying it.
Go ahead,
In
Gigi. I'm
certain
sorry.
in certain situations, I think it's still valid because when I say that, I mean when
Mhm.
they moved away, he had to use the resources. He had to try to find his daughter. Now, when she was here and he knew where she was at, he was doing everything he could to be in her life. He was showing up for her. He's paying child support. He was buying school clothes. He was having birthday parties set up for her, and her mother wouldn't even let her come. Those kind of things. So when I say resources, I mean when they left, he didn't have the resources to hire a private investigator kind of thing to find out where they were. But I just feel like that he did me being able to see it growing up with it all. I feel like my father did everything in his power that he could do and still kept, because she did some things. She did some treacherous things. She went to his job and talked about him at his job. She went to church. And, I mean, just doing some foul
But if
things.
you
And my
take your
father.
dad out of it, so it's not personalized, just as a whole, as a
Mhm.
Black community, so it's not so personal. Do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like Black people rely on that excuse a lot as parents?
But I agree with her
It
original.
depends. It
I
depends.
agree
For
with
me,
her
it depends.
original answer. It depends on the premises behind why they're saying it. Because
Yeah.
you have scenarios where, you know what, I could have been at more of your soccer games, but you know, from a financial perspective, I had to work a double shift or something like that. Not in my scenario, but in some people's scenario.
Your audio cut out. Let me ask the rest of the panel real quick in 10 seconds or less. Do you feel like I'm gonna go around? I'm gonna do a round table, then we're gonna move on. I got more questions for y'all, and then we gotta wrap it up. Because you just went out. I think that was Taya that was talking. Somebody's audio cut off mid-sentence. And I think you were
Oh
saying
no,
you
that was me. I didn't want to overtalk you.
oh, okay. I think you're saying you agree with Gigi, but real quick, based on the dialogue that Gigi introduced, and she gave some very good examples between her sister and what her sister struggled with and how that impacted everybody, and everybody had different dynamics with that. But she also brought up something that I've heard before in the Black community. I did the best I could. I gave you what I could, what I knew. I was struggling with my own. Y'all, is that good enough? Is that something that we need to retire and start putting that aside? And really seeing these kids and hearing these kids as adults. Valerie, 10 seconds or less.
Yes, we need to retire it.
Okay, you want to give a little bit? Give us 5 seconds of why.
Well, I just think that it's an excuse. And I think that a lot of people are selfish. And so they use that as an excuse. And when it's time to be held accountable for their actions, that's the way they sum it up. And it shuts the argument down.
All right. Journey to Jasmine. Okay, I'll let Simone go. Simone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to my mouse in
Okay, go
time.
ahead. Go ahead.
um, does that need to be retired? Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simone.
Retire it, because it's not about those things, the material things. It's about how they made those children feel. It's the feelings that she's going through in her head right now of how she felt in different occasions that possibly could have been smoothed out, and he didn't. He allowed Nell to talk for him. He allowed other things to happen. He has no voice. He doesn't voice that to her. And we can solidify that by seeing how he acts on the show or doesn't act on the show.
Okay. Taya, when it comes to the Black community, do we often use that excuse? Do the parents get away with murder and neglecting their children or whatever it is? Not even
No, because if you're going to acknowledge it by saying that's the best that I had, then that means change it, do something, like work on it, do better. So if you know that it was a mistake that you made in the past, okay, now you're acknowledging it was a mistake. So now do the work to correct it. So yes, retire.
Okay. Seems like, the chat is, y'all, this has been the most 50-50 consensus I've seen. Show Styles and Spirit says, I think the term they did the best they could is a little passive way of acknowledging trauma. But you should just let it, hold on, let me get it closer. But you just let it sit there and don't heal nor say that your family did you wrong. That's true. Okay, what if we enter the conversation? Let me go to review hour and say, you know what, I did the best that I could. And now that you are sharing with me, should we retire that? Should we get more curious? Have we failed each other with just doing the best that we can?
Yeah, I think we need to retire it, but we can redefine what is the best that you can do. Let's redefine.
Ooh, I like that.
That was a good one. That's a whole different conversation. Weekends, what are your thoughts?
I think it's just the facts. So you do the best that you can at that time. A person that has a child at 19 versus 29 versus 39 is going to parent differently. Oftentimes you have different resources and different circumstances. So although, yes, it may be an excuse for doing bad parenting at 19, but I would not expect somebody to parent a child the same way at 19 that they do at 39.
Okay, that's fair. Stacy.
Oh, I feel that we should retire it. But I do understand you got to think about I'm in a whole nother generation gap. So when my parents were coming up, they did not have the educational component that we have now. So back then they probably did do the best they possibly could because they were not as educated as we are. So there's really no excuse for us as parents now saying that, well, I did the best I could. That's just a cop out.
All right. Mimi says we cannot retire a family. There are several components that play into that. I agree. But shit, I sure can distance myself for my own peace of mind. But listen, we're talking about retiring a blockage, an excuse, a phrase, a coin, a term that keeps us from getting curious and really hearing the other person. Gigi, should we retire it? Or is it's
I'm
okay?
gonna stand on what I said. It depends on the circumstances.
I know that's right. Listen, and she said what she said.
Said what I said.
Now, listen, Red and Red, welcome to the stage. I'm gonna pick you up where we left off. When it comes to the Black community, parents, older people, old folks, whatever we want to call them, ancestors, elders, have we relied too heavily on excuse? I did what I did. I did the best I could. I gave you what I could. Should we retire it? Is it okay? What would be your recommendation?
Is that for me? Red Ann?
Yeah. We're
Oh,
introducing
okay.
you to the conversation.
Um, I agree with the caller before. It all depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I have daughters that will, you know, consistently, like my first daughter from my first marriage, and then my daughter from my second marriage. My daughter will, the oldest will tell me, Mom, you didn't do that when we were growing up, this and that, this and that. And as many times as I've had to tell her and say to her, um, when I had you, my mom didn't talk to me about being a mother. I had to learn as I went. I made a lot of mistakes. I've learned from those mistakes. I'm trying to be a better mom, but what you will not do is make me feel bad for doing the best that I could at raising you. And that was my truth, and that is still my truth as her mom. Now, I have learned as I've gotten older that I did make mistakes. And as much as I try to talk to her, she flies off the handle sometimes. Um, I've had to get to a point where I will say, you're an adult, I'm an adult. If there are things that you don't understand, let's talk about it. It can't be changed what has happened, the way things went, you didn't like this or you didn't like that. It can't be changed because it's already happened. What we can do is learn from it now, talk about it, and move different, talk different, because reliving what happened in the past is not going to make us any better for our future, for our relationship, for your kids to see, because you want your kids to see that you can talk through conflict without cursing, raising your voice, things like that. I was just like Neil, younger. But as you get older, I became wiser, and I realized that the way that I talked, the way that I spoke, it wasn't right because I found my daughter doing the same thing with her children. And that's when I learned that I failed. I admit it, I failed as your mom, but my mom, I felt like, how was I supposed to know how to raise her if my mother didn't teach me how to be a mom? You know what I mean?
That's fair. I find something very interesting, and we got to wrap up. We've been going at it. We've done a really good job. Panel, 30 seconds or less. I'm about to throw something out there. One thing I've noticed is I didn't hear anybody say. I've heard a lot, different opinions, different viewpoints. And if I didn't hear it, please forgive me if you said it. Let me just say I didn't hear it enough. I didn't hear anybody lead with, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I've heard very strong, empathetic, we got to move forward. And everything we've said has been very matter of fact. But I didn't hear, and what I would like to start hearing from us is a little bit more softness, love, pausing, and saying, I'm sorry if I hurt you. And that's it, pausing there. Because I think when we follow it up with, I did the best that I could, that's final. It closes the door, in my opinion, for the other person to elaborate. Because that's almost like, okay, that's done. It's finished. I just told you I did the best that I could. And that's what we don't want to do anymore. That's what was done to us. And I think where we can get better as a whole is just saying, I never meant to hurt you. I'm sorry. And I'm listening. You have the floor. Oh, no, I just want to listen. And then maybe after I'm sorry, that was not my intention. Maybe later on in a conversation saying, I did the best that I could, but now that I know, but not leading with that. Why do you think, Journey to Jasmine, now that I've pointed that out, 30 seconds or less, why do you feel like it's very hard for us to be vulnerable with each other? Because the what's the name of those people, y'all? What's their last names? The Fletchers. There's no vulnerability.
None.
They'll say, I'm coming back with tea. I'm coming
None.
back with receipts. The math ain't mathing. Ain't no, listen, everybody going fucking balls to the walls and they family and blood. And ain't nobody came in and say, wait a minute, in my opinion, with love. But that's not just the Fletchers. Hell, that's a lot. That's a lot of our households. Why do you think that is,
Mhm.
Jasmine?
Like I said in my commentary, Neil, in my opinion, Neil never loved that girl. The fact that Chris said, "That's our child. I'm gonna love her. That's our child." Then Neil was like, well, "And I respect that for you." Hmm. Yeah, because that's how a person who really loves you speaks. I'm gonna say this. Um, yeah. Sorry, girl, that had
No,
threw
think
me all
about
the
the
way off.
question. Why do you think Black households struggle with leading with empathy and vulnerability first? I'm
Ah,
sorry.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry. Because a lot of people lack introspection. And I'll use my own family as an example. My dad is very introspective, and I feel like I get that from him. I think my mom could use a whole hell of a lot more introspection. And one time my dad came to me, it was like sometime last year. Like we would just sit in his man cave and just talk like forever. Me and my dad mad tight. And he was like, if there was any time that I, didn't stand in the gap for you as a parent, or if you feel like there's any time that I failed you as a parent, I really do apologize. And I'm like, dang, that was just out of nowhere. Thank you. But I mean, I feel like my dad was excellent. You know what I'm saying? And but the fact that he had that introspection to come to me with that, I feel like where my mom, there's a lot of issues and qualms that I have with her, and I can't bring them to her without her being defensive because she has no introspection. My personal belief, and I feel like that's just looking at some of the comments. I feel like that's the case here. A lot of people in our community lack introspection because if you have introspection, you then have to do the shadow work. You have to go deep. You have to dig up the roots of the things that hurt you, and that's too painful for a lot of people. But they'll spill they hurt blood over everybody else, and it's like, don't come to me with the stuff that I did to you because I can't even deal with the stuff that was done to me.
Okay, so introspection.
Hmm.
All right, Simone, 30 seconds or less. Why do you think? I don't even want to say Black now because we got people of color. We got other races in there. We got Cat, that's Middle Eastern. Cat, I think you're Middle Eastern, right? If I remember from the last time, we got all kind of people up in here that's here to learn. Why do you think people of color, minorities, Black people, Asians struggle with vulnerability and just saying, shit, damn, I guess I messed some shit up. I hurt you bad. Why do you think we have to lead with a defense, a line of defense first?
It's deep for me. I think as Black people, I can't speak for anyone else, but as a Black woman, Black person, I think we're 150 years removed from slavery. We had to be strong. We know nothing but being strong. We don't know weak. Now in this day and age, yes, I wish we could, come to each other and be more empathetic and just say, I'm sorry. I'm here to listen to, whatever you have to say. But I think that's kind of where it starts. But if or if Chris, if we're still speaking on Chris, I
No, no, no,
think if we,
no, 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 Chris. Just like
okay,
Black
just in general,
people.
I think if we do lead with that, apologize and say, I'm sorry for hurting you. And, I want to be here for you now. I want to, you know, hear what you have to say about how I hurt you and I hope we can move forward. I think it would help. It would be a positive start. And hopefully that person will be, would want that. And it might be a little pushback initially, but it has to start somewhere. So we have to be the bigger person. And, as being the adult, the parent, it has to start with us.
Taya, why do you think we struggle with that as minorities?
Accountability. It goes back to what one of the callers said, where in Black households, you wasn't supposed to talk about a lot. It was just, it happened, move on. Um, Whereas I'm one of those people. I wear my feelings on my sleeve. But it's not acceptable a lot of times because you're supposed to keep on pushing and you know be strong and be you're supposed to be a strong Black woman, and nothing is supposed to affect you, and crying is considered weak. And I think because of conversations like this being more normalized, that has allowed for the one caller's father, and even in some instances for me to even have the conversation with my child where it's like, hey, I know I didn't realize it when I was raising you, but there was times that I was upset with you because I felt like you were supposed to receive what I was giving you as XYZ, when well, I'm telling you to be grateful for XYZ, but it's not that you don't appreciate it. You don't know what it's like not to have it, to actually um, have the level of gratefulness that I would think that you would have. Like, oh, I'm at the game screaming, and you're like, and you're upset because I'm there screaming, where I'm looking at it like, you should be grateful I'm at the game screaming, like I'm supporting you. But I think it goes, just to narrow it down, is accountability, and the fact that it's been taught to us to
Yeah.
be that way, not to be as soft. And parents is always right. And I think the other caller had also made the point where the parents are always right and the children are not supposed to have feelings. But again, I think it's getting a little better because of the open.
All right. Thank you, Taya. You cut off. The review hour.
No,
30.
I didn't cut off. I'm trying to I'm trying to wrap it up for you because
Okay.
I'm a talker.
Look, no, y'all got 30 seconds. I gotta go to bed. All right. So I'm gonna let you wrap it up and then I'm gonna go to the review hour. Taya.
Oh no, I was done.
Okay. Review hour, 30 seconds or less. Why do you think we struggle with vulnerability and really coming to the table? And as opposed to listen, it's human nature. First of all, let me just call that out. It's human nature, y'all, to protect yourself first. So it's not that you're doing wrong, but when you become more consciously aware of it, I just want y'all to become consciously aware of it. And not millennials, you do it too. As children, you do it to your friends, you do it to your parents. Everybody protects themselves first. If you find yourself doing it, pause. Review hour. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that we don't want to say the word I'm sorry because we're afraid of rejection or the ultimate reveal. You know, we don't want to really know that I've done something to hurt you. And we're afraid that you may reject, us, because when we do say we're sorry, because there are a lot of people, a lot of children don't think that we are afraid of rejection as well. And sometimes parents don't want to come to you and say, I'm sorry, because they are afraid of rejection.
That's facts. 92.7, I see you. I'm coming to you. Bear with me. I'm gonna let you wrap us up and take us home. Real quick, 30 seconds or less. I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit. I'm gonna pose a different question to you. Weekends. 30 seconds or less. Somebody made a comment. I'm gonna put it up there. Hold on, let me put it up there. They said, it was a good one. Let me find it. Give me 1 second.
Could it be embarrassment?
Who said that?
Taya.
It could be. It could be. Mm-hmm. Of your own feelings that you haven't processed. Nobody's ever
Mhm.
taught you that it's okay to be hurt. Because in Black households, you better wipe them tears before I give you what? Something to
Something to cry
cry.
for.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Never letting kids express themselves and don't talk back and stay in the child's place and all of that stuff. But what we didn't know is we were stifling their emotional growth. We were preventing them from evolving so that they could be in productive relationships, not as a mother and a wife and boyfriend, girlfriend, but also as a parent. If we really get down, that's a whole different conversation. But weekends, I found it. What are your thoughts? Renee says Chris cheated on all of them. My take is he cheated on the women in his life. Not necessarily. Well, they said all of them. Let me let you have that. What are your thoughts? 30 seconds or less.
I can agree with that. I feel like he cheated on all of them, whether it was infidelity in the relationship and also him putting his feelings into the relationships. The way that he allows Nell to be very emotional about things that are going on, it's almost like her emotions take the place of his emotions. And I also feel like with Lexi's mom, her emotions about the situation and the things that she may have said or done took the place of his emotions. He allowed everybody to parent. So not only did he cheat on them, but he cheated all of them out of him being present in their lives as a strong male figure.
Great point. I agree. I have to agree. Let's go to Red and. Let me take this one down. I'm gonna give you a different one. Hold on. Okay, Red Ann. Renee says, why does Lexi need to prove that she was and is hurt to the person or people that hurt her? Do we think that they don't know? Why do you feel like, based on this comment and or questions, that Lexi is having to prove her hurt and pain so hard, in your opinion?
Because she's never been heard as a young girl.
Okay.
If
You
you've
want to elaborate a
never,
little bit?
if she's tried to express to her dad before how she's felt, if she's maybe went to Nell before as a little girl or a young lady before, how she's felt, it doesn't sound like this is the first time that she's went to them or expressed not being included. So I don't think this is something new that they're hearing. So she wants to be heard. She wants to be validated.
Ooh, I agree. I agree. Before I go to Gigi, the review hour, did I give you a question? Did I get
You
you?
you did.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna go to Gigi. Gigi, I got one for you. Lexi, in her interview with that blogger, she said she only wanted to see her father in heaven. Whew, that's a tough one. How do they move forward from there? Gigi, in your opinion, what are your thoughts?
Ooh, that's a big one. To say that is it just did something to me when she said it, because it's almost like she's telling him that the door is closed. But she's crying out for help, so the door is not closed. In my opinion, I think she really just wants to get under Chris's skin, and maybe this will do. And I'm not saying Chris hasn't done anything yet, but maybe this, based on what she said, this what might make Chris move in a different way to get back at her as a father and daughter relationship. But that's a lot. That's a lot for anybody to take. I mean, you pretty much saying you dead to me. So how do you come back from that? But
Yeah.
as a parent, you don't give up. I would never give up on my child if my child said that. But
Would you reach out to
we
them?
diff-
If Lexi said that to
absolutely.
you, would you still continue to reach out to her first, or would you have to process and be a human being as a
I'm a
parent and
process.
her?
Oh, I'm definitely gonna have to process it because I'm gonna have to have the hurt that I'm feeling for her saying that to be removed from me before I can even attempt to go to her with that. Because when I go to her, I want to go as an understanding parent and to let her sit and tell me if she can why she feels that way, and then we can decide together how do we want to move forward. Because I'm gonna let my child know that I'm not ever giving up on you, no matter how you feel about me. I birthed you, so I'm gonna always have that attachment to you to want you to be the best that you can be and for me to always be in your life. So I mean, but I would have to sit back and give it a little bit of time, but I wouldn't give it too much time because that's going to make her think that he don't care more.
That's a tough position to be in, ain't it?
It's a tough position.
It's almost like you. I understand everybody's position when some of y'all said, "Shit, he can't win for losing." It's love.
Right.
Can you
Yeah,
really?
because I was going to ask, like, so where does space, it's where does space take a hold? Like when, like right now, with her being as hurt as she is, and to make a statement like that, if Chris was to say, you know what, and then maybe he'll try to reach out to her, or maybe he's like, well, you know what, let me let her simmer down first. So then is not even just Chris as a parent, if you're going through something with your child, if you allow time or space to come in, to get involved, then are you wrong for that?
It's a tough one. Unfortunately, this is going to have to be a real life learning experience, and they're going to have to start from ground zero. They're going to have to
And
start and build from scratch this healing stuff.
and for me, I hope they do not bring this on TV or in the social media. They need to do this behind doors so it can
Yeah, I
be
definitely don't want to see them
felt
teaching
as
her.
sincere on both sides. Because coming on TV, it's always an agenda.
Oh, this is, that's going to be on production. I really hope they don't try to make this as messy as they can.
See,
Night,
that's the part right there. That
yeah,
part
just
right there with production. I'm telling production we ain't doing this. And but we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. If they don't do it, they might lose a role on there. We don't know. But I'm just saying, I'm not putting my child through this just for some clicks and for TV.
yeah. 92.7. What are your thoughts about the entire conversation?
Queen Sheba, thanks for letting me up. This conversation has been great. I'm so glad. And it sounds crazy. I'm glad this happened because
Oh, your audio cut off. You got off to a strong start too. We're gonna hold space for you. There you go. There you go. You bet. Mic check. 92.7. Mic check. Make sure take your time. Click settings for your audio. Make sure your audio, your output is coming through whatever channel you need it to come through. If you want to drop down and come right back up, I'll hold space for you. Take your time. No worries. We can play Ring Around the Roses. But I think your audio has disconnected. Just drop down, come right back up. All right, let's go real quick. Journey to Jasmine, your final thoughts. 10 seconds or 92.7. Let's do a final audio check. Mic check. Unmute. Oh, okay, she's gonna come back. Let's give her a couple of seconds and then we'll wrap it up. Oh, y'all, this has been a hell of a conversation. I ain't gonna lie. This has been a really good conversation. Journey to Jasmine, what are your final thoughts?
I'll end my final thoughts by answering the question that you asked me, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You asked how would myself as a millennial, how would I move past this as a millennial, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I'll just use how I was able to move with my family as a person who was like kind of deemed as a black sheep, but in a different way. So I would say disconnect from everyone and then assess myself. because you're not always right. No one's always right, and no one's always wrong. So I look for any part that of what they were saying that could be true. Were there parts of me that I could prune, dig up, upgrade? I did that work. Then when I did come back around, I came back around as my fortified self and continue to this day to fortify myself and go about my own personal rebuilding journey. And I have firm boundaries that I do not waver on. There is no like trying to play me to the left. I don't play that. If it even looks like that, I will cut you off immediately. I do not care. And that's across all relationships. And now my presence commands respect because I've made myself less accessible, um, simultaneously upgrading myself as well.
All right. Well, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you following up on that.
Yes.
You never know who's listening. 92.7. Welcome back. Mic check.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You got the floor.
All right. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna make it real quick. Basically, what I was saying is, as African Americans, we have come a long way from being royalty to getting captured in slave ships, coming to America, becoming slaves, getting out of slavery, building ourselves up to become like my grandmother is 93, and she has an outhouse in the back of her house, and she stays in Winona, Mississippi. It's a small town in Mississippi. And every time I would go and stay with her during the summer, I would just be like, wow, she had 12 children. 12 kids used to stay in this small house. And then to look at my mom, she has a nice, house in a nice area. To see that generational come up, move up. I think we're getting better with time. And I think minorities are dealing with a lot of trauma, right? Whether it's financial trauma coming from the hoods, being poor, whether it's drug addiction. My father is currently still a drug addict, right? So you can imagine, I'm 32 years old. You can imagine what I've seen, what I've witnessed. And I don't hate him. I don't wish death on him. Like, I love my father because he brought me into this world. Now, do I add him as an everyday, I got to talk to him? We don't have that type of relationship. It's not that, but I don't hold any hate in my heart for him. So I'm glad, and it's going to sound crazy, I'm glad that this is playing out on TV because it's showing what we're really going through. And that's what you want entertainment to be. You want it to reflect what's going on in the world. And that's it. I could say more, but that's it.
Oh, that's real. I'm glad you said that because this is what we saying. This is what we was trying to tell Kiki, I think. Take it and make it, use it to make an impact and not mess.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I
Right.
agree. Really good points. Let me go to Miss Vanessa. Welcome to the stage. What are your thoughts?
Hello.
Hey.
Oh, great. I just wanted to say thank you for this session tonight. I've been on other pages and it has been more of a less bash Lexi scene. And I just like the fact that everyone has had different perspective, but it wasn't just totally bashing of Lexi. Miss Black Titanic had a very good session as well. And I just want to thank everyone for this session this evening because it has really been it's just really been a good experience seeing other people's perspective. And I just feel that as long as Chris is breathing, that there's a chance of them working things out, and I really hope for the best for them. I would not like to see this on the show. I think this needs to be handled privately, and I just would like for them to talk and work things out. That's all I want. That's all I had to say.
Thank you for such a beautiful and inspiring message. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you, Miss Vanessa.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
All right. The review hour. Before I go to Tony, I got a question for you. Well, I got it. Shelly 111 says a lot of moms provide their daughters with extra heat that they overspill on their exes. I know that story personally. The review hour, in your opinion, do you feel like that could be the case between Lexi and her mom? Do you feel like Lexi's mom, and this is purely assumption, y'all, we do not know this to be true. We're just talking, gathering our thoughts based on the behaviors we've witnessed. Do you feel like there may have been some overspill between Lexi's mom sharing her experience with Lexi's dad, that Lexi may have adopted some of that attitude?
I do. I do. I believe there was overspill, but my question is, was the overspill the entire truth of the matter? So that's what my concern is. We have our side of the stories, but sometimes we don't tell it how it really was. So I'm hoping that if her mom did do the overspill, that she told how it really was and what happened.
Who would you be more likely to believe? Because everybody has a bias. Chris, Lexi, her mom, or Nell?
Mm. Ah, I can't narrow it down to one person. If I had to narrow it down, I would say it'd have to be her mom and Chris, because they are the only ones that were involved in the relationship, and only they know the story, that how it began.
That's fair. Thank you. Taya, real quick, 30 seconds or less. Liza More Lies says, let's give some advice to Chris on how to include all his kids. What would you say to him?
Well, for one, I would think I get that he has like a more laid back personality, which would be fine in certain scenarios, but not when it comes down to his family. He's supposed to be the head and Nell should be the neck. So, and I don't mean he has to dictate everything, but in regards to keeping the family together, he's supposed to lead that. He should be the bridge that brings his stepkids with Nell, his kids with his first wife or girlfriend. I forgot if they was married or whatever, but he should be that bridge that holds it all together. Nell is a little too vocal when it comes to that scenario. Like whatever feelings or whatever she has about the situation should be shared between her and her husband, and it shouldn't spill out to the kids. And it should be up to Chris to address it where there's confrontation is involved. So ultimately, I would say to Chris that he's the foundation of getting this all together. And I think someone said earlier, like part of the repair should not involve Nell. Like with this interview that they're about to do, I would rather see the interview of just Chris by himself. And then maybe Nell can come into the interview later and discuss the portion of how their relationship came to surface. But I think Chris needs to focus on, he said he wants to do the work, or he did everything he could do, whatever he said. He needs to be the engine that drives it, that drives the driving force to bring it all together. So my advice to him would be to step up.
That's great advice because I think we're all waiting on him. Thank you so much. Tony, welcome to the conversation. What are your thoughts?
Hi, panel. Hi, Miss Queen Sheba. I just wanted to say, going back to the part where we talked about, where you guys were talking about how we need to apologize to our kids. I see a lot. My mother was Nell, and in turn, I became Nell. Towards my daughter, I think I was very, very hard on her when I was married. Um, and I had her before I got married, and I think I was so enamored with trying to please my husband that I sided with him so much that I didn't see that the way that he and I were parenting her was detrimental to her. She's an adult now; she's 27, and I can see the remnants of good night, baby. I can see the remnants of um, our parenting style and how it affects her. When he and I got a divorce, she was 16, And I've gone through a lot of counseling, and I realized, my God, I really damaged my child. And so I had to be the big woman and go and apologize to her, because I remember trying to have a conversation with my mother about her parenting style wasn't received very well. And so, into Lexi's point, I think that there's a couple of things happening with her. Um, One, she's the interview. I didn't really watch the interview. It was really hard to watch, but I think that she did that interview from a perspective of the hurt child that's inside of her versus from the woman that she is today. And I think that she would definitely benefit for, she first has, in order for her to heal her relationship with her father, I think that she has to do some healing for herself first, and take some accountability in how she's reacting to um, the emotional pain that she incurred as a child, and how she's displaying it as a woman. So I can't imagine um, how healthy her marriage would be, or even her relationship with her children, with her carrying um, this pain that she's displaying. I don't agree that this would be made. This is a good for TV unless there was some sort of counseling that took place. I would like to see, honestly, um, maybe some counseling sessions with her and her father, with Dr. Kit. I think that's his name. If there was going to be any um, scenes on TV, I think that that would be more beneficial for their image and for their relationship. If it was something like that, I don't think that it would be healthy, showing what we saw with their initial dinner. I think that would continue to drive a wedge between her and her father, and alienate her from her wanting to have a relationship with Nell and her siblings. But one thing that I did see that no one's talked about was, there was conversation at that table that her and Lance, which is Nell's son from a previous relationship, that they were close growing up.
Hmm.
And so that leads me to believe that there was some form of relationship that was happy at one point with their family dynamic.
Or
Where,
commonalities. Sometimes
yeah,
people build on commonalities, trauma bonding.
exactly. And then I also would be interested to see how he felt about Chris being his stepfather as well, because there wasn't any vocal, or men don't really display emotions like that, especially publicly, except for Martell. But anyhow, but I would like to see more, maybe a scene with Lance and her talking about their relationship with Chris, and also their relationship as step siblings. Um, but yeah, that's really what I really wanted to say. I just thought this conversation was very dynamic, and it a lot of people were saying um, how they were upset about people jumping on Lexi or whatever. But I just think that Lexi, I probably, if I was her friend, I would have told her not to do the interview. Not at all. Not until she had a conversation with her father first, or at least took a step back and thought about her feelings, and just talk more about how, not so much as how she felt, but maybe what she saw, or where she at now as an adult, and how she's planning to heal or plan to fix her relationship. Because it's same relationship that you have with your dad is indicative to a relationship that you will have with your husband. So I just really don't see how how she's in a healthy place personally. That's all I have.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted to.
I no, it's a lot. It's a lot, but she's dealing with a lot, and they all are. And I really hate this for them, because I felt like they were off to a great start. With that being said, really, really quickly, let me go to Gigi. Let me pull it up. Hold on. If I can find it. It was one more. Hold on, not that one. Oh, here it is. Sean Wheeler says, my husband told me earlier, because of my childhood trauma, I appear mean to some people. Gigi, in your opinion, does childhood trauma impact your appearance, attitude, and how people connect with you? or how people aren't able to connect with you. Can childhood trauma be so devastating that you come off
Absolutely.
cold?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I can attest to that from personal experience. From my siblings that are my biological siblings from my mother and my father, I was the black sheep, right? I was treated differently than everybody else. And I took that with me into relationships. I took that to me um, everywhere I went. I had to learn over that that's not who I was. That's just who they tried to make me be. But that came later on. It came with wisdom. It came with experiences came with failure. It came with self, not being worthy, feeling like I'm not worthy. I went through all of that. Um, and where I'm at now, you can't tell me who I'm not. I know who I am and I know what I am. So just to say, hey, that does affect you, especially if it comes from people who you feel like should be protecting you. And they put those seeds in your head. I am the cutoff queen right now. I live a very peaceful life. I don't do no drama with family, friends, whatever. I'm not doing it with coworkers, nothing. My boss calls me a chihuahua at work because I just let them have it, especially when they don't know what they're talking about. But I don't have to be mean anymore. I'm getting my point across. So yeah, that you definitely can come across that way if you haven't learned how to let that go and learn who you are and start to love yourself. You're going to carry that for the rest of your life. And you're going to appear that way to everybody you run into. People don't smile. She mean. We don't know if she's mean. She might have a bad day, but your facial expression, you're unapproachable. So it's a lot that falls into that. And that comes from childhood trauma if you don't deal with it.
I agree. Very well, very well, very well laid out. Thank you so much. The review hour, real quick. Tiffany Foster says Black families are more focused on protecting the adults, and there's not enough protection for children. Parents don't want to take accountability for the trauma that they've caused with their children. Can you relate? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Mm, uh, I can agree with that. I can
Okay.
agree with that. I think the majority of parents don't want to admit to things that they may have done against their children. I just think that is a fact. They always say, "I don't remember doing that. I didn't say that." So yeah, I would have to agree with that.
I love it. Short, sweet, and to the point. Journey to Jasmine.
Can I add to that? Do you mind
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
add to
go ahead.
that?
Jump in and let them know who's talking so they can know.
This is Tony again. It's interesting because my mom, again, she was a single parent. She had me when she was 16. And my mom would always tell me that I did the best I could with what I had. And, you know, back to the point earlier, people saying that. And then over time, I listened to my mom, and she really tries to rewrite history of the type of mother that she was. I think it's painful for people to admit that they failed. I think it's extremely painful, especially if they haven't did the work on themselves to move past their own internal traumas or pain. And it's really hard. I mean, the conversation I tried to have with my mom was very hard for me to have with her, but it also became very hard because she started to cry, and she reverted and saying that, well, my mother was teenager when she had me, and I really didn't have many skills. I just think that, overall, I'm not saying all Black people, but a lot of Black people that, especially those who come from a very impoverished background, have that dynamic where they're raised with from teenage parentage, and they have a sense of arrested development, and don't really have the emotional intelligence
Mhm.
to work through certain emotions when they're confronted with them, um, or if they're challenged, about their behavior.
So is it
So
right? Because this is what's happening, in my opinion. Just me being a Gen X, being able to see the boomers, being in between the boomers, the millennials, experiencing Gen Zs. I believe,
mhm.
tell me if you agree, disagree, what your thoughts are really quickly. Is it right? And I think we have a history of sacrificing our children's well-being, mental health to protect our own. I did the best
Absolutely.
I could. Sorry you're on drugs. Sorry you feel that way, but I did the best I could. And your kids just be suffering like a mofo. Suffering.
That is the blanket, the safety blanket that's thrown over whatever hurt, pain, or trauma that you experience. From drug addiction or whatever your family or whoever family is plagued with these things. And that is just the excuse that needs to be retired. I think that it's an easy thing to say, and it doesn't require you to have any more validity with it.
Excellent. Thank you. Y'all, this is such an excellent conversation. I'm having a hard time letting it go. Real quick, Journey to Jasmine. Can you give us 5 seconds, 10 seconds at the most? Or hold on, let me give you one. I wanted to give you this one as a millennial. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. I had it on the screen. She said, Yvette. Yvette says, people are only asking for love. Would you agree?
100% on both ends. But love is an action word. It's not just I love you. It's actually I'm gonna take accountability for how I treated you because that didn't make you feel good. That didn't make you feel love. So let me in turn try to fix this. That's love too.
Oh, very good. Thank you for sharing. Tony, Carla says Lexi may not ever get the answer she wants from her father. Does she stay stuck? Does she move on? What would you say to her?
I think that she needs to hold space for that. But for now, she needs to work on herself. Dealing with childhood trauma, having gone through that healing and going through the pinpointing of when the distrust came between me and my mother. I was 8 years old when I stopped trusting my mother. And it wasn't until I was 44 when I realized that. And that was I couldn't even have that conversation with my mom because she's 63, but she doesn't have the emotional intelligence for me to have that conversation with her. And and it's amazing because when you think about it from the lens of a child, it's such something so simple that happened. It was her closing the door between me and my sister, screaming at us, talking about leave her alone. And when she said that I realized that I couldn't depend on her. I had to trust myself. And that was what I carried all through my adult life up until that point.
Who is this talking?
This is Tony.
Tony.
Tony, you are when I said you're telling my story, minus a sister. Like for real.
I'm
When I
telling you,
realized
I
I
mean,
stopped trusting my mom, that's what it was.
it was her. And I realized, and I thought about all the times that she would shut herself in her room and keep her door closed. And it was just me and my sister. And she was also going through her own things. And my mom was the kind of woman that would go to the corner store and come back with a stray. She never came back home alone. She never took any caution about. She had 2 girls at home. And then when I became a teenager, these men would try to hit on me when they see me on the street.
Damn.
So it was like, it wasn't, it was just, all I could say was God protected me from rape or anything that could have happened with that because of her own trauma. And then, my mom, she is what it is. I've accepted, her situation or whatever as a child or whatever. But the thing is that I think that people don't really take inventory enough in their own lives to sit back and think about at what point in your life did the emotional door close. And Ayanna Vazette said that it's at that point of your life that you look at everything from that point of your life. Every reaction is from that point. So my reactions to my relationships with men and everything like that was through an 8-year-old acting out, throwing tantrums when I couldn't get my way, or if I felt like, because I didn't have the tools at the time to express how I was feeling. And and I'm not gonna lie, I made a lot of mistakes with my daughter, with, talking about her father to her or whatever and all of that. But I say all this to say that, we as a people, we really need to take the time to heal. And I realized that, in the 90s and the 80s or whatever, beyond that time, counseling wasn't something that was prevalent or even affordable maybe at that time period. But I just think it should be mandatory at this point, for everybody to sit on somebody's couch and discuss their innermost.
Man, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Pharrell, thank you for
No
sharing.
problem.
Thank you for showing up for yourself. Last but not least, Taya.
So I agree that Lexi should work on herself. Because number one, Lexi she may know what she wants, but she may not know what it looks like. And so I think she needs to go through that process to heal herself, so that way, whatever it is that she's asking of Chris, she knows what it looks like for her. So it's kind of like for like some of the younger women who I talk to in regards to like certain relationship situations, I tell them, one of the things I'll say is like, hey, it's okay to go out to eat by yourself, or to treat yourself a certain way. Like, what's wrong with you going out to dinner by yourself? If you don't like being by yourself, how do you expect someone else to like being around you if you don't like being around you? So I use that as an example to say Lexi needs to figure out what it looks like, what the love that she wants from her father looks like. I mean, we all have our opinions about what we think Chris needs to do, and he may very well do that, but that might not be the love language or the action that Lexi actually needs. So I think she needs to figure it out, because there was a lot of fire that she was spitting. And yes, it comes from a hurt place, but she may not know what it is that she needs to heal that. So I think she needs to find that answer first before she has that expectation of Chris. Because also it's been said in the chat, like Chris may not, she may have an expectation of him that he may not be capable of.
Period.
That's not to excuse him or to justify his actions, but he very well may not be capable of it. But at least if Lexi figures out what it is that she needs, she may be able to look at Chris and figure out that, or see that, wait a minute, I'm asking this man to do something that he's not even capable of doing. And that gives her a different direction to take to get that healing.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for just chiming in. It's been a really, really great conversation. I'm not gonna lie. I get bored real easy. This one is hard to let go because it's so profound. And you gave me something to think about, Taya, while you were saying, with Lexi figuring out herself. You know what occurred to me? And I'm gonna wrap it up. What did the mother pour into you?
That's a great question.
And that just hit me. What was the mom pouring into you? Not saying that the mom could ever make up for what a dad brings to the table, but what is it that your mom has been able to give you that you're utilizing to just be productive as a mother, as a daughter, as a woman, as a wife? And that's what I'm gonna leave y'all with. So Chris, if you are coming out to talk, don't bash your daughter. I hope you come out and whatever I really hope you seek God first and really, really come as a strong, mighty man, as the head and not the tail over your family. And with that being said, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you to all of my panelists for coming up and sharing your beautiful wisdom and knowledge. Thank you to all of my moderators that did a hell of a job tonight in the chat. Thank you all for rocking and staying with us. It's late. We held on to it. I went a little bit longer than I expected, but this is one of those that was for the book. To the replay gang, we see y'all. Maybe you'll get up late tonight and listen early in the morning. Very good conversation. God bless you all. Thank you to my content creators that are in the chat. Show South Spirit, Black Titanic, Journey to Jasmine, Trending at Some Point, Uppity. Who else, y'all? Come on. Oh, I hate when Vivian at Bravo. Who else was in there? Help me out, Journey. Mama Talk Love.
What's her name? Another mama. It's another mama name.
There's a
That
lot
was
of
in
mamas.
I know, right? It's
There was
late. I'm
somebody else on
sorry.
the tip of my tongue. Prince. Oh.
You talking about Terrell?
No, it was somebody else. They called him out earlier. But oh well. I love all you. Charge it to my head and not my heart. God bless you. It's late. Get some sleep, you all. We really had a really good conversation. Edifying. And it's Braylon Lee. Braylon. Duh. How did I forget about Braylon? Braylon. Cookie from the Shy. Yep. There was one more.
I was late. You know that.
There was somebody else that I wanted to shout out.
Show Styles and Spirit. Did you say
I said show Styles. No, there was Diego, but no, it was somebody else, y'all. And all of y'all was saying.
I know somebody said Chit Chat.
Okay, Chit Chat. If she was in the building, Chit Chat, I said Black Titanic. It was one more that I forgot about. All right, y'all. We love you. God bless you all, and good night. All right, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.